what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinthemorning.com. What's it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
How about you, Russ?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
Liberty?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
Richard Roberts, what's it called?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
You can catch all of our shenanigans throughout the week, the videos from Mike G and Philly Chris, all the updates, and participate in the conversation. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell anybody who listen to check us out at MikeGinthemorning.com. I also want to remind our listeners about the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Freedom Station. Kick off your mornings with Scott Adams. Bring you the Scott Adams Show weekdays from 9 a.m. until 11. We've got the one, the only, Dan the Man Bongino coming at you weekdays from noon until 3 p.m. We got the headliner, intellectual giant Ben Shapiro. Bring you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And finally, a welcomed addition to the Freedom Station family. We've got Michael Knowles. Bring you the Michael Knowles Show weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. So don't forget to tune in and show him some love. I want to remind our listeners that today's episode of the Mike G in the Morning program is brought to you by Elite Tactical Armory, your firearm storage solution in the Lehigh Valley. Do you know what a commercial armory is? Well, you should. The Pennsylvania government has recognized commercial armories as an acceptable mechanism for off-site firearm storage. There are a bunch of reasons why you might need to store your firearms somewhere outside the home. If you're headed out of town for a while, if your kid is on probation, if your scorned ex-wife is trying to accuse you again, or maybe you've just run out of room for your precious babies, get yourself a unit at Elite Tactical Armory. So visit our friends over at Elite Tactical Armory at EliteTacticalArmory.com or PACommercialArmory.com. That's EliteTacticalArmory.com or PACommercialArmory.com. Because it's important to support those who support freedom. And be sure and tell them Mike G sent you. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it, Russ.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Well, as our listeners could tell, Mike G was not taken out by the turnip. I'm alive and well, much to the dismay of many of the anti-gunners out there. A lot of people looking to see me go. Rich Roberts knows what this is all about.
I'm looking to see you go.
Hey, make sure you tell my side of the story if I go down, Rich Roberts. He's the first call I made.
He did.
Because, you know, there'll be so many people out there. See, there's just another conservative talk show host who denied the whole thing. He went down. Good for him. Serves him right. That is not a fair and accurate assessment. So not today, fellas. Sorry to disappoint you. You know, the law has been in the news quite frequently these last several weeks with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial receiving a verdict coming down. Liberty Lee is our correspondent for that matter. She will be telling us the insides and outs. I know Richard Roberts demanded that Liberty come on and give us a full breakdown of what took place. But that struck me as an opportune time to have you on the program, Rich, because really, It's a good opportunity for us to tell some war stories in the courtroom about the kinds of things that we see on a day-to-day basis. And frequently, when you see people on our side of the aisle, you get to talking to them about the criminal justice system. I think there's a lot of folks who are naive. They've never been involved in the criminal justice system and sort of had this attitude that if the police have accused somebody of something, if they've been arrested, then they must be guilty. You and I, on the other hand, get to see how the sausage is made, so to speak. And it is terrifying if you've never been involved. It is absolutely terrifying for somebody who doesn't know the way the ins and outs of these things work. But I think a lot of folks, this is not a criminal trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but they sort of see the way these trials go. And frankly, I was surprised at some of the objections being made, not being made, and some of the lines of questioning during certain cross-examinations. And to think that these are folks who have been litigating for decades in many instances and getting paid a whole lot of money. It's kind of a head scratcher there, Rich. Did you notice that throughout that trial, there were certain aspects where the attorneys seemed underprepared?
Oh, I don't know about that, but he's certainly, it's a different kind of environment. I'm in, the criminal justice system, but I mean, the not objections. You don't know what the person's trial strategy is, to be honest with you. And that's always a difficult subject, because sometimes you don't make an objection to something because, one, it could be a really bad thing that came out. And if you make an objection, do you draw the jury's attention to it? Did he pass right through? I don't know where it goes from there. So
how about objecting to your own question?
Never objected to my own question. Objection, Your Honor. Wait, what? It's difficult. You ever have to object to an answer to one of your questions? That's always the worst. Object. Can we strike that from the record, please? Wait, why'd you ask that question if you don't?
I object.
I did notice that one of the attorneys being hailed as a wonderful cross-examiner. There was a little bit of the McCarthy method being used, and for those of us who are unfamiliar with that, and why would you be familiar if you're not a litigator, really? I'd say a lot of attorneys aren't even familiar with the McCarthy method, but when you're asking these questions on cross-examination, they're very short, specific, pointed questions where you should know the answer that you're going to get. It should be framed in such a way that you're going to get the answer you want, and if they give you the answer opposite from what you want, they're going to look like a fool. So everything's very specifically crafted and laid out in order to show your point. I did notice, though, that sometimes the responses would cover the next question or the next two questions, but this attorney would really stick to that script and basically ignore the fact that the witness just answered that question, and it just sounded ridiculous. Have you seen that before, Rich?
I have, and I've actually been a victim of that myself. When I was a younger attorney, the way I was trained was really write all your questions out. Like, your cross-examination from start to finish was supposed to be laid out. If you said yes, no, and what I had found is in my first big felony case, right, that I had. First big felony case, I got like 12 witnesses. I got a binder that's an inch thick of questions. Everything's laid out. So I'm going through the questions and I do my whole spiel. And then at the end of the case, I present my side of the case. At the end of the case, they call a rebuttal witness that I wasn't expecting, had no idea was there, and So I don't have anything prepared. So at this point, I'm listening to direct. I'm going through the thing. I ask a bunch of questions. So the jury goes out. There was a clerk there. I don't know why they put this clerk with me, like train him. I'm like, this is like my first felony trial. Why are you sending him with me? Like, I know what I'm doing. But anyway, and I said, what do you think? He's like, your best cross was the witness you weren't expecting. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're going through the questions and you're asking a witness a question and he answers in a way where you should have explored that answer a little bit because it may have opened up a hole, but you were so stuck on your script, you kept going on the script and missed it. And at the point you didn't have the script, you really listened to the questions, you focused your questions, and you listened to the answer. And your next question may have been in a category, but you really went with where the direction of the testimony was going. So I've learned not to write out all my questions, and I think maybe that was something that the lawyer did. He was so focused on that script, no matter what the answer was, he was doing the next question, even if the guy already answered it. So I found to be me, I do more general themes, right? I want to talk about this theme. I want to talk about that theme. I want to talk about that theme. Because that way I'm not so focused on a script that I can't adjust with the way the case is going.
I do a little bit of a hybrid of that because there's definitely a a theme, like you said, but there are very specific points that I want to go through with the narrative.
All right.
But you got to be able to listen, adjust, and adapt.
Yep.
If you can't do that, you're in the wrong business. And for those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, Richard, we have a major announcement that we have to make on this program. So anybody who is listening right now and participating in the live stream, tell your friends and all of your Mike G in the Morning family members to tune in and check out this big announcement that will be coming up here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to
We have a big announcement. I was a little
Big announcement.
You're off
Big
guard with the
announcement?
major announcement.
What? What announcement? Does it involve me? I didn't know that.
It is a major announcement, and
Did
will
we get a
bring
new
it up there.
producer?
I love how you've got some
Get a
kind
new
of British
producer?
spelling of your name. Thanks to Russell, you have some kind of British spelling of attorney on your name, I guess. Attourney. Barrister Richard Sherwood Roberts Jr.
Oh,
Welcome to the
okay.
show,
Ish,
sir.
boy.
It's crazy. We should be called barrister. We'd have to wear those wigs though.
Right.
That would be
We'd
fine.
still wear
You guys
those
should start
white
doing
powder
that.
wigs.
Were you on the
I was watching
program
that-
that night when we discussed how to respond to who is it? If somebody's at the door, they knock on and somebody says, who is it? What's the proper response? Were you on the
No, I
program when we
didn't.
talked about that?
No, I
Chris,
was
you know the
not.
response, the proper response, right?
If somebody's at your front door and they knock,
They
Who is
knock and you say, who is it? What are they supposed to say to be grammatically correct? Because most people say it's me, right?
oh, it is I.
It is I.
It is I.
Stevie will enjoy that one.
It is I, my lord.
It is I, Barrister Richard
Listen.
Sherwood Roberts Jr.
If anybody calls me my lord, they get in. That's it. You know? That's it. So for all
It is
the
I.
home invaders listening, you're like, it's I, my lord. I'm like, come right in. That's it. That's
Come
what I
on
do.
in. What do you
got me.
want?
Yeah.
Take it
You're
all.
talking about objections. It reminds me of a case. You're talking about the cases in your younger years. There's a case I handled in my younger years. I was co-counsel with this attorney who had been litigating for several decades. He's an older guy. And he was first chair. I was second chair. So he's the one asking the questions, doing the objections and everything like that. And there was this one part of the case. The lawsuit was against our client, and they sued him as an individual, and then they sued his corporation. Now, Rich, you know that if you sue the corporation and get a judgment, you can only collect against the corporation unless the individual is separately held liable for what took place. And if the corporation doesn't have assets, then they can't pay out, or if they don't have enough assets. And so that becomes a hurdle for folks who are suing these corporations. But it's very difficult to do what they call piercing the corporate veil. There are a couple of different standards. One is that you were operating undercapitalized, meaning for the type of work you're doing, you didn't have insurance and you didn't have enough capital payout if you did something wrong and you harmed somebody. Or the second would be is if you're abusing the corporate entity. So you're really just using this as a sham, and you weren't following the corporate formalities, things of that nature. And you just had this entity that you slapped together, but you were really operating as an individual. So they really wanted to get our guy on the hook as an individual. Our job was to make sure that that did not happen. So they were asking our guy on cross-examination a bunch of different questions. And one of the questions that came out at some point, I believe, had to do with whether the business had any money in its bank account or if the business was in operation at that point in time, which is irrelevant for the
Right.
purposes of that case. It has nothing to do with what happened in the incident that they were suing him for. So I was saying to the attorney, object, object, object in his ear, and he didn't object. The client's looking at us because he could see me telling him to object, but I'm not objecting out loud because I'm second chair. And then the client ultimately answers the question, and I slammed my hand on the table. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I was furious. And he turned to me and he said, Mike, I can't listen to what you're saying in my ear and listen to the witness at the same time. And so that actually prompted me in the future to when I'm dealing with a client, a lot of times during a trial or during a hearing, your own client will be trying to whisper things in your ear about stuff that they think is important. A lot of times it's not even important, but they'll be whispering a bunch of stuff in your ear. So I always tell them at the very beginning, here's a pad, here's a pen. If you think anything's important, do me a favor, write it down, because I can't listen to what you're saying and listen to the witness at the same time. And we always make sure we do that at the outset. It was really prompted by me crossing up the coke outside. we ended up kicking their butts on that case anyway. They brought in this big firm to sue our guy. Apparently, they had been friends with the attorney who was a partner at that firm, and they put in hours upon hours on this case, and it was a pretty heated battle. But when we got in there for that non-jury trial, we objected constantly, and they got hardly any evidence in. And as a result, when they were through with their case in chief, they had demanded, I think, $20,000 or something like that. And when they were through with their case in chief, they came over to us and they said, our client will take $1,000. Yeah, well, I think
So
we
much
could
for that.
that.
That works. That's a
But
heck of an offer.
He was with this
Yeah.
big firm, this partner, and he was talking all kinds of trash going in about how he was going to crush us and we didn't know what we were doing and welcome to the big leagues kind of stuff. And we just totally held that dude down and slapped him around for 3 hours in a non-jury trial. It was so much
You know
fun.
what? You know what that reminds me of? When we have new attorneys, I don't know if Mike's like this. I say the name of the game is simple, but it's difficult at the same time. You need to be confident. Good case, bad case. When you walk into court, you need to walk in there, head held high, can't be beat. But you can't be overconfident, because that's how you get knocked out. Because
Right.
then
Trouble.
you don't see Mike's little firm coming. I'm the big shot. You can't do anything to me. All of a sudden, you're getting smacked around the whole case, and then you got to go, ooh, $1,000 sounds good. Right, because that's what happens. Because you're like,
Slam the
who's
table.
this? This is an easy case. Always need to be confident. Never walk in there unsure of yourself. Even if you are, I tell you attorneys, you walk in there, I'm going to kick your butt. Even if you know you're about to get beat. But at the same point, you cannot be overconfident, because that's how you really get beat bad.
Rich, do you think that part of that has to do with age and life experience? Because I've found that typically somebody who becomes an attorney, I don't want to say later on in life, but for you, this was legitimately your second career. You had a very important corporate job leading up to your legal education, and you got into this. You weren't fresh out of college or anything, so you had some life experience. And really right out of the gate, when you and I started to work together at the McShane firm, because we were both barred at the same time, you could just tell that confidence that you had about you. Do you think some of that came with your life experience, that you learned a lot of things along the way? Because I find that it's more difficult for younger folks who are just getting out of law school, and they didn't have any career prior to going into law school, just college, law school, and now you're out in the real world and you're litigating, you get people's lives in your hands. It's a lot more difficult for those people, I think, to
It was
to
at
be
street fights,
confident.
wasn't it, Rich? All your street fights?
It could have been that. It could have been that. You learn a healthy amount of respect, and you realize, coming from a corporate gig, you got to do the same thing there. You got to be confident when you walk in the room for a project presentation or a negotiation, or you're not going to get anything. But again, if you come in there overconfident, same principle applies in an office setting, in a corporate setting. You're going to get beat down, and you're going to look ridiculous, and then your boss is going to go, you just made the whole team look ridiculous. So it's something to be said about that. And the overconfidence just comes, with experience. Usually the young people fresh out of law school have trouble with confidence, or they have a real trouble with overconfidence. It's like, slow down, Sparky. Listen, I've been doing this a lot longer than you. It's not just like, I'm going to do, and I'm like, all right, buddy. And then they try that and they get beat up, and I go, I told you, slow down, Sparky. Told you.
I have seen, and I've seen this with people who go to law school as a second career sometimes, that sometimes they're a little too confident. They think they know everything they need to know out of the gate. I've been around the block a few times. Yeah, but you haven't been in this ballpark before. This is a completely different arena.
It's a new
you
sport.
got a lot to learn.
Sport.
Yeah. I might be
yeah.
I might be younger than you, but you got a lot to learn, son.
I wouldn't use that language though, Mike. I don't know if that's the best idea.
That is the exact word for word language that I typically use with those people.
Say it one more time.
No, I mean it's difficult. I found an older attorney in a case I did recently, where it was a case where this older attorney thought I was just going to roll over. He was being a jerk, not really being professional at all. So he sent over a stipulation of facts. I didn't sign it. Everybody else in the case signed it. we get to the thing. He's like, I don't know counsel's position. I'm like, not stipulating anything. Make him prove his case, Judge. And then he had this packet of exhibits, and he goes through them, and he's like, okay, and then we're going to talk about admission. And he goes, any objection? I go, I object to all of them. And the judge goes, really? I'm like, well, doesn't put any witnesses on. I mean, I got a feeling I'm probably not going to object to any of them after he properly authenticates them. And then, but after that, that's where it is. So he proceeded at this point to be angry. So he calls the first witness. He gets him to authenticate the exhibit. He asked for the admission of the exhibit. I have no objection. He doesn't ask any questions. And I went, wait a minute. So were you trying to pull the fact that I would agree to admission and you just rest your case on the exhibit? Are you trying to pull that on me? And he's like, you don't have any questions? Like, I have no questions. So then I go through this exhibit line by line by line by line by line. And he's looking at me like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, she wrote down and made all these conclusions. I'm challenging those conclusions. He's like, why? I'm like, I must be new around here. Do you know other attorneys don't challenge? Like, what do you think my client paid me for? I mean, don't get me wrong. She paid me just to sit here. I would absolutely do that. Just be like, I'm just getting a lot of money to sit here and wear this nice suit. That's it. I'm done. But I mean, typically that's not what happens.
Yeah.
We've
seen stuff like that. Jeremy asked the question, Mike, did you see the guy in the gallery that was reacting to when the guy from TMZ was on the stand? He's a DUI attorney. How do you feel about an attorney not being able to contain themselves? Well, I think I just told a story about me losing it just a little bit. When you're intense and you're fiery and you're passionate, that's one thing. And you try to remain poker faced throughout these things. I will occasionally get in a client's ear when they react too much to testimony. Let's say somebody's on the stand, they're accusing them. It's like, oh, they're lying. This is nonsense. I had a client do that recently, and I yelled without yelling at him because you don't want to audibly yell, but I got in his ear and harshly whispered maybe a few curse words.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I grabbed his sleeve as I was doing it. You shut up and you sit there and you let me do my job. So, sure, it can be easy because these are situations where there's a lot on the line. And if you're invested and you really care about the outcome, then there is going to be an emotional aspect. It's sort of like when you're playing sports. You see the guys who get irritated when they strike out. That if you care enough about the game, that's going to be natural, but you have to be disciplined. Particularly if you're not disciplined, it's going to turn off a jury or it's going to upset a judge. I've certainly had some incidents where judges have absolutely hosed us on things where they're completely incorrect, legally speaking, and they were harming our client's interest. And, you try your best to contain yourself. I don't know that I've never been held in contempt or anything like that. I don't know how close I've been.
There's still time, Mike. Don't worry.
Pulling up those disciplinary records, Mike. Let me see something.
I've never been held in contempt, and I don't know how close I've been. I've been in some shouting matches with judges when they're doing something that's completely contrary to the law. I may have had my chest out and leaned over the lectern a couple of times. But when your client's future is on the line and they're paying you to fight for them, you got to go out there and you got to fight for them. You don't just accept that just because he's the judge. If there's a way for you to correct, now you don't want to be counterproductive. You don't want to do it in a way that, well, if I was going to change my mind, I'm definitely not doing it now. But you got to be firm sometimes when you're getting rolled on and they're completely hosing you. So that's how I feel about that.
I'll give you a war story about that, about challenging a judge. So young attorney again, Mike knows the judge, Judge Cherry, Dauphin County. So we're doing a case and I'm making an argument and the judge is wrong. And I say, Your Honor, that's it. And he looks me in the face. Are you telling me that I am wrong? Yes, Your Honor. The law says da-da-da. So hold on a second. How long have you been an attorney? I'm like, a week. No, it was longer than that. I was like, a few months. This was born in October.
It's been at least 7 or 8 weeks, Your Honor.
I'll be graduating soon, Your Honor.
Just wait a minute. I've been on the bench and he goes through it. So how old are you? And I'm like, all right, well, I've almost been a lawyer as long as you've been alive, and you're here to tell me in my courtroom that I am wrong.
Uh-oh.
And I looked at him in the meekest way possible. I said, yes, Your Honor, the law is pretty clear. It says da 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 da. And he goes, you're right. And I look at him like, uh-oh, I didn't see this coming. He's like, wanted to test it. I do with a lot of new attorneys. You happen to be the lucky or unlucky person today. He's like, you have to be sure that if you're sticking to your point and you're right, you did it professionally, you did it right, you didn't call me a jerk, you didn't go off the handle, but you stuck to your guns despite challenging. He's like, you have to be able to do that, whether the person's a judge, opposing counsel, you make sure. And I do that this time of year because there's new attorneys who are first coming through law school, just graduated prosecutors. And he's like, that's what you do. I am wrong. You're correct. And he granted my motion. And I'll never forget that. It was the first time where, like, you just have to make sure sometimes, as Mike said, you got to do it professionally. You can't be like, what are you, an idiot? You can't do that. You just got to, no, you're wrong. No, you're telling me I'm
smarter
wrong.
than
Yes,
you,
you're
Your
wrong.
Honor.
Hey, dope, you don't know how to read.
How long you been a
We
judge?
don't do that. No, Your Honor. It says in this case at this blah 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 blah. This is what you have to show, and again, you're right. And he's like, that's the test. I do it every once in a while to attorneys just to make sure that you guys got to have a backbone, because sometimes judges aren't always right. Just because I wear this black robe doesn't mean I'm right all the time.
I wonder what he says to the lawyers who back down.
Yeah, I
don't
wonder
know.
what he does say. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I will say this about Judge Terry, though, and I've known him for about 8 years. I don't know that I'll ever have the pleasure of being in front of him in the courtroom ever again, because a little infrequent that I'm out that way for the types of matters that he handles. But if you think of every positive attribute you could think of with a human being, somebody who's intelligent and kind and wise,
Like
and
Russ.
measured across the board, this guy's a 10 out of 10.
Fair. Yeah.
I really
absolutely.
can't say enough good things about the guy. And I've had my issues with judges in the past. But
Right.
I can't
No, I
say
agree.
enough good
There's
things.
one thing I could pick on Judge Cherry for, however. So the last case I litigated in front of him, he ruled against me. Okay, so I lost the case. After the case is over, records closed, right? Everybody's leaving. He goes, Attorney Roberts, come here. And I go, okay. So I walk up to him. He said, thanks. He's like, I just want you to know that decision was not a reflection on you or the way you tried the case, or the way you handled the case, or the way you argued the case. It was not a reflection on you. I want to make sure you don't think that. And I'm sitting there going, I've never thought that in any case I was ever unsuccessful until now. So if I come back here in front of you and I go, was that because of the way I handled it, or I just lost the case? And it was just interesting. I mean, it was just funny. It would make a joke because I was like, I never have thought that before. I just thought, the law wasn't on my side. But it's just when we talk about judges, just the kindness he shows, the support he does. He treats everybody fair. Because I think Mike would agree. I've had my issues with judges, but the one thing I always look for, no matter win, lose, or draw, is when I stand in front of the judge, do I feel like I got a fair shot? Right. Do I think he literally just called it down the middle and he just, can he support his decision that the case didn't go my way? Right. And I can get it. I might disagree with his reasoning. That's what appellate courts are for and things like that. But, I hate a case, and Mike and Sir, we can tell war stories where I walk in the courtroom and I'm like, I've already lost. That's really no idea what I just do. I'm going to talk for 6 hours, kill myself. And he's going to be like, denied. I'm like, I could have called that 6 hours ago.
How often does that happen?
That's what I got to do.
I just had it
What
happen.
percentage of times?
I had
does that happen?
earlier
I was
this
going
week.
to talk about Mike.
Earlier this
Yeah.
week, I had a case where I walked in. We were entitled to this hearing. And basically, we were in court to decide whether I got that hearing, not necessarily whether I would win on what I was looking for. All we were asking for was the hearing. And there's case law that says in order for me to not be entitled for that hearing, then the Commonwealth has to prove 2 factors with clear and convincing evidence. Commonwealth had no evidence. They didn't bring anything. They made some arguments. And so it was my turn to talk. Your Honor, clearly under this particular case, and the site is this, I give them the case site. Here's the language that the court used. They have to show, the Commonwealth has the burden of showing with clear and convincing evidence that both of these factors are met. They've presented no evidence. And as a result, we're entitled to this hearing. And this has even been discussed in the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania through a dissent. Judge Pellegrini said X, Y, and Z. Here's the case site for that. And here's exactly what he said. I'm going to quote. And the judge just says, yeah, no, I'm not giving you the hearing. It's like, Would you mind explaining why, Your Honor? Because maybe I could clarify something. It seems that the case law is pretty clear here. And he said, yeah, we just don't usually do that. It's like, I don't even know how to respond to that. Hey, you just don't usually follow the law? Is that what you're telling me? Your Honor, respectfully, maybe I didn't explain it correctly, but there's very clear case law that's binding on point, and here's exactly what it says, and here are the case sites. It says, yeah, no, I heard you. You're denied.
Young man, I've been a judge for 40 years. How old
Yeah,
are you?
it was absolutely mind-boggling. And what are you going to do? I didn't lash out that time in the courtroom, but as soon as I was done, you bet I had a few foul words to say in the hallway into my sleeve. It's infuriating.
Into me. I remember that because he was pretty pissed, and I was like, yeah, that would have made me mad too.
Just-
You
it's
can
not
bet here,
right.
Mike. Yeah, no, it's just not that. And I mean,
Well, then
if
here's
you
the
would've-
problem, though. They're dead wrong. They may know that my client's not going to spend $15,000 to appeal something
Right.
that's really not a big deal in the grand scheme of things like that. So we just don't.
Can anything be
Yeah.
done in a situation like that where it's 100% clear that the judge isn't, following the law? Like what happens?
You got to file an appeal.
You got to
Okay,
file an appeal.
yeah. But, I mean,
You
other
file an
than
appeal to
that, though,
Superior
like-
Court.
Other than that, isn't there any?
Nope.
There's no real ramifications against them.
They're the
Well,
judge.
you can
Yeah.
fire the judge. You just turn around and be like,
Or
Judge,
fire
you're
the
fired.
producer. How about we fire the producer who we pointed out that he had the word attorney spelled wrong like 20 minutes ago?
And it's
And he
still
just-
spelled wrong.
The
It
incorrect
is still
spelling of
spelled
the word attorney. How about we fire that guy?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because literally there's nothing to do. And to
Right.
go to the producer who can't spell attorney correctly, right? You can't go to a different judge.
You can't go to a
Because-
different
Right.
producer.
You can't because there's a rule. There's a rule that a judge on an equal level can't change the ruling of a preceding judge, a prior judge.
That's ridiculous. So, see, to me,
Right,
like I
so
love
it's-
talking to you guys, and I'm always fascinated. This is great discussion, but that to me just seems like it's so wrong. I mean, the law matters, right? Like that's just
Remind
it's
me
so-
to tell the story
Yeah.
about when I was in court with Sitchko on a criminal case and the judge rejected the guilty plea and we had to go and find a new judge to accept it. Remind me to tell that story. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So I think it's time for our major announcement. And before we go ahead and we play this video, I want to let our listeners who are participating through the Freedom airwaves know that you can check out this video. We're going to upload it to the Mike G in the Morning YouTube channel. So if you check us out on YouTube, don't forget to like our videos and subscribe. But you can check out this video so you can see all the visuals and not just hear the sound that you are about to hear over the Freedom airwaves on 1180 AM WFYL. So why don't we go ahead and proceed with the major announcement, Russell?
Major announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the major announcement. Please stay tuned.
Great finger in the can. It's a nice touch.
Nice.
Welcome to the firm, brother.
Yeah, man. Excited to be partnering up with Mike. It's going to be an exciting time, I hope. Good time had by all. I'm looking forward to it quite a bit. We're getting started, and I guess the Justice Brothers are really together now.
That's
awesome.
right. Kicking
Yeah.
off the Justice Brothers once again, reunited under one roof. We started our career together, feels like forever ago. And by the way, I did tell our former boss, Justin McShane, before we released this and made it public, I said, I feel like I at least owe it to you to let you in on this
I didn't
before
know.
it becomes
cool.
public. I said, check out this video. I hope it makes you feel like a proud older brother seeing the kid brothers all growing up. And he sent me back a really, really nice response about how proud he is of us. And it's great news. And he's excited for us and can't wait to see us take over Eastern Pennsylvania and the Lehigh Valley.
Awesome.
And that is the plan. We will be opening our brand new office in Bethlehem. G-Law Bethlehem.
All right.
Starting
Yes.
tomorrow. We got to pick up the keys tomorrow at 1
the
o'clock.
keys tomorrow.
To pick up the keys tomorrow. So brand new office location in Bethlehem that will be headed up by the one and only Richard S. Roberts Jr. It's a great thing that we've got you at the firm, and we are certainly going to help a lot of people in terms of gun rights, in terms of CYS cases, in terms of criminal defense. I'm being told that my face is frozen. I don't know if my audio is frozen.
The audio's okay, but your face is frozen. Yeah.
Am I good
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. You
Hey,
got a
there
little
you
cold
are.
over
Good.
there.
Am I
But hey,
back in
Turn the
action?
camera off.
Congratulations,
There you go.
Rich.
You're
Have you
back.
tried turning it off
Thanks,
and on
man. I
again?
appreciate it.
We got a lot of
Like,
congratulations from Len and from Rita and from Eric and Liberty chiming in with the congratulations.
Super cool.
No, it's
Yeah,
I'm,
you got
I'm excited. So
Yeah.
And for
Well, you guys were killing it before, and you weren't under the same roof. So imagine what you can do now.
I know.
yeah,
I-
now
you know?
we're under
Yeah.
the same roof.
Yeah.
You know, one person, one law firm. We're in good shape.
And how do people get in touch with you, Rich, up there at the new office? Do you have a way to, if people want to reach out to you?
glawpa.com. Listen,
Yeah.
we've got the same contact info
Yeah.
now. We got
Awesome.
the same
Yeah.
website. We got the same office telephone number. You can give us a shout and get in touch with us. And of course, Rich is well
We're here for
versed
you
in
guys.
Yeah.
gun law, criminal defense, and the CYS cases. Why don't you tell our folks a little bit about the CYS cases? And because I don't know how many of our listeners, we did have a guest on our program talk about the version of CYS in New York.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. I think
Yeah.
I think I may have said something. I
Yeah,
was like, I don't know why you invited this person,
I think I got.
but
It had nothing to do with you.
yeah, I know. That's what I keep hearing. You know,
You
we
had to
would
go
have
see
made
the
this announcement
Nutcracker
a
or
few
something like
months
that
ago.
anyway. Didn't you have to go to see the Nutcracker that night?
I think I might have, but I said, you know what? That's why he's begging. I was thinking about it, man. I'm waiting a few months. I'm like, nah, I'm not going now. No, we're not partnering up. No. So one of the three main practice areas, Mike's focus is on criminal defense and firearms law. I do both of those, but I also bring an added new practice area to the firm, children and youth. I've represented parents and children and youth cases. Everything from, not taking your kids somewhere as the accusations to legitimate, serious, life-threatening injuries. I thoroughly enjoy it. I think one of the things that Mike and I both have in common is I enjoy helping people. I really enjoy, as part of my practice, getting involved in trying to help people as much as I can. And I find that when I do this, helping parents and issues with their kids and in children and youth cases, that it really gives me great satisfaction. There's nothing like getting to a case, winning that case, getting the kids home, doing justice, which is always pleasurable, but really, especially parents that are falsely accused, just the amount of cases that I have in these are tremendous. Now, what I say is I certainly know that there are seriously abused kids. Make no bones about that. But typically people who hire me are not those people. And the issues that I run into is they try to treat my clients the same way they treat these clients who come in. There's two infants walking around and there's used heroin needles all over the place. But the problem is I step in and I go, well, that's not the way it is. And what I have found is in my practice area that, and I've done these cases far and wide throughout the state, is that people are looking for an attorney who does not just roll over. And one, I definitely don't do that. And two, the shocking thing to me sometimes is, and I don't know if it's just the bit that the agency attorney plays or the caseworkers from the particular agency play, but what they do is they think that I'm just going to roll over. And I'm like, well, no. No, I had an attorney in one case where I walked in and said, so you're going to challenge this, what is like a dependency petition. Basically, the agency alleges the children lack parental care and control. I said, no, It's not.
Mhm.
They don't have the facts. They don't have clear and convincing evidence. No, I'm going to the judge. We're going to fight this. And they're like, well, I would just agree to it and go forward. I go, why? I was like, well, they're not removing the kids from the house. I go, well, so what? Who wants to be told what to do for the next 9
Sure.
months with their children? I'm like,
Yeah, that's
and that's
crazy.
the other
It's
problem.
crazy.
And
I can't imagine
and
as
the
a
other-
parent how crazy that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
run into situations, and one of the things that I think frustrates me, I've literally had this argument with on the phone. I go, well, they should do it this way. Well, the parent, just because you would parent your child differently
Mhm.
doesn't mean that what my client is doing is wrong, abuse, neglect. It doesn't mean that. Well, I
That's a
wouldn't do
good
it.
point. Sure.
Oh, okay, good for you. That's fine. You
Right.
know, and it's like, well, they're I have kids. Well, they call their kid an idiot. Well, what if the kid's an idiot? I don't. What am I gonna do if the
Oh,
kid's
Mike
an
changed. Look at you.
I had to tap out. I couldn't do the suit and tie thing anymore. I'm sorry. I was sweating bullets.
You hit
I was
the
sweating.
telephone the telephone booth, did you?
I had to hit the telephone booth.
Telephone booth?
You
Well,
know-
he joined the firm. Now he can't afford air conditioning. I don't know what that's.
Oh,
Well, Richard,
Mike's
in
expenses
business-
just went way up. Yeah.
And, here's the thing. in business-
No, that heat's at 82. We're not doing
Yeah.
air conditioning over.
That's
we-
But no, the
what-
CYS is a real big passion of mine.
Hmm.
A lot of the clients that I currently have known about the move, or we'll know here shortly. And all of them were like, "We'll come with you. We don't want to go anywhere else." So I appreciate the loyalty for those clients, and
Hmm.
I'm
Have
excited.
you had to deal? Oh, sorry, Rich. I was going to say, have you
No,
had
go
to
ahead.
deal with anything regarding what we're seeing in the news, across the country, where the, certain institutions like schools and other organizations are sort of crossing over the line of, beginning to parent children that are not their children? You know what I mean? Have you
That
had to deal
typically
with any?
doesn't fall into my category.
Okay,
Typically,
okay,
I get
yeah.
places where they think there's some bad things happening in the house, substance abuse. That's my favorite one. And
Mhm.
well, somebody called and said they do drugs. They want to take a drug test. My client says no. Like,
Hmm.
well, how? My favorite question was one time, well, how do we prove they're not using drugs? I go, well, you have to prove they are. Well, how do we do that? if they
Right.
won't test? I go, I didn't say it was going to be easy. It's a difficult prospect. It's your job.
Oh, it's
I
not
don't know what to tell you.
guilty. It's not guilty until proven innocent.
No. And then I always find, and this is the biggest frustration I've had, and I've had numerous clients, the worst thing you can do to CYS is say no.
Hmm.
As soon as you say no, it doesn't matter whether it's Lehigh, Northampton, Erie, Allegheny. They're like, what do you mean no? I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I don't
Mhm.
think it's necessary. Are you sure? Yeah, positive. We're not doing that. Why not?
Mm.
And then it's like, because you just questioned Jesus himself. So, I mean, and
You don't
then
do that.
you'll
Mhm.
run into cases. There's a particular case I did for a long, long time in Lehigh County where it was a frustrating judge, didn't understand the process, there's terrible people who do evaluations of parents. And it's the problem you run into is you have these people that contract with the county to do parental evaluations. What is your parenting capacity? And needless to say, that comes back, you're terrible. And then my best part about it is, and I did this recently in a Berks County case, they did an evaluation, said she needed these, my client needed these 5 things, this treatment, this therapy. And lo and behold, the person who did the evaluation was available to do all these therapies. And I'm going, I'm not saying that's a little suspicious. And the judge looks at me, I'm like, I'm not accusing her of this, but it's a little weird when you do the evaluation, you recommend treatment, and then that person's going to do treatment. I go, well, hold on a second.
Hmm.
So do you get paid for the evaluation? Yes. Do you get paid extra for the treatment? Yes. I'm
Yeah.
not saying they don't need it, but I'm saying it's a little tricky.
Seems like a conflict of
So-
interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems like a conflict. And then she's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
available. I can start next week. And I go, well, that's convenient to me. I just,
I've got bad
Again, I don't-
news. I've examined your car, and you definitely need a new car. Fortunately, I happen to sell these new cars.
it was just, it was
I'm s-
shocking. And yeah,
I noticed when I was
it's-
slicing your tires open, I mean that your tires are sliced open. That's so
Yeah, like,
tight.
I haven't noticed it. Yeah, I'm like, I don't accuse anybody of being terrible in that situation. I was like, it's just a little funny, isn't it? Like, no,
Mm.
I do it all the time. And I go, That's not really a better answer. It's not
Yeah,
really
right,
a better
right.
answer.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, thank you
I
for
do it all
proving
the
my
time.
point.
Okay,
I didn't just slash your tires. I slash everybody's tires.
Right.
I know.
right,
I don't
right.
know if that's the best answer. But
You know
that's
how many
gonna be the
tires
new
I sold
area.
last year?
Yeah, that's the new area of practice I'm bringing personally. We're going to expand the
Wow.
criminal defense. We do some of that now, but now it'll be everything. I bring in some federal experience, some appellate experience. So, it's going to be it's a good expansion. I think we're going to work well together. My prior firm that I'm leaving, I got nothing but respect, and thanks to them, they gave me the opportunity to really build their practice. Gave me an opportunity to work with Mike, so we figured, I guess. Guess we can work together, Mike. I just
That's
got to see
right.
you a bit more. So I mean, so I got nothing but love. It was just, it's time. I think it's a good opportunity, and Mike made the offer, and I wouldn't have to accept, but I absolutely gladly accepted. And then
Made
we
him
did
an
that
offer he
video. It
couldn't
was great.
That's
I
what you
couldn't
always do,
refuse
man.
it, but that wasn't that good. It's good. It wasn't that good. No, I'm just saying it was
Yeah.
really excited. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. I was getting the itch to maybe go somewhere else. The firm I was at, it's a new practice area. And so there wasn't, I don't know. I think we did really well. Mike will tell you. I did really well, the stuff I did with Mike and outside of it. But I think
Yeah.
I could do better with the firm that's more focused on that, because what I was doing at that was probably 180 degrees different than anything they did there. So,
Right.
I thought if we come to a firm where it's got some kind of that base, which is in a similar vein, the anti-government kind of thing going on there. I think when we come to that, it's a good idea. So
Yeah, we've been working together our
Mike's
entire careers.
our
But-
entire
great.
careers. And I did not know about the Justin thing, and that really makes me happy. It does. Because like I said, Justin was a good boss. He gave you the opportunity to go out and really learn how to be an attorney, wasn't micromanaging. You got your own caseload. And I don't think I would be where I am today without that experience. Like, all right, man, good luck. I'm like, what? He's like, hey, you know what you're doing. You've been around forever. Start quoting, do your thing. Good luck. So, I mean, the staff where I am, paralegal and the support staff will be great. I'm going to miss them terribly, but we got a good place to go, and we're excited to get started.
Absolutely. I think the
They're
bottom line
lost.
is that if I had been charged with a crime at any point, who's the first call you think I'm making?
Right.
Richard Roberts, right? So I think it would behoove your operating law firm. Let's figure out a way to get that guy on our team.
Right.
It's because the abilities on Rich, I can't say enough about his ability. Can't say enough about his integrity. And this is from somebody who's been in the trenches with him throughout literally day one of our careers. We've been working
Yeah.
together. So
I think your
welcome
bar
aboard.
number is like 120 more than mine, honestly.
Yeah. Where
I
did
think
you
we're
sit?
really, really close.
Where
wow.
did you sit for the bar?
Harrisburg.
You did Harrisburg. I did Philadelphia.
I was like, right. I think you're like, you might be like 300 or 400 numbers after mine. So like literally, like, yeah, right then. We're
Yeah, it was
partying
the same-
almost the same
Wow.
time.
How many
Yeah. Same
people
class.
pass it a year? Do you know?
It depends on the year. They do it
Yeah.
twice a year in Pennsylvania, February and July. More people pass it in July. More people take it in July. February is typically people, honestly, who fail the bar in July or who graduate in December.
Graduated early. Yeah. There's some people
Yeah.
who, or they're like, you were part-time.
Student, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
did night school, so worked full time during the day. Worked for Justin. Funny enough,
What'd you
a
do
lot
before,
during the
Rich?
day.
What'd you do before?
Logistics.
Oh, cool.
logistics.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a major corporation.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah.
And that's where
Correct.
yeah, that's where
We're-
you met your wife, right?
I did. I met my lovely wife there. If I wouldn't have worked there, she worked in the smart section because she's the chemical engineer, and I was in the distribution logistics. So we were the dumb section of the floor. They were over on the. We put all the smart people over here. and
Like I got
was
my
like,
wife. I guess I'll go be an attorney. now.
Right? No, I said.
Yeah,
you
she
know,
was like, we could get married, but you're gonna have to go to law school or
Right,
something.
No, it was
Step
it
it up
was,
a notch.
it was funny because she's the one who absolutely pushed me to go to law school. Absolutely. She saw me get in trouble at work because I get in trouble when I start getting bored. I start doing dumb stuff because I need something to do. I need to be stimulated. And she's like, you go to law school. And it was one of those, if you ever been in a situation where you're scared to succeed. And it may have been a little bit where, joining up with Mike and like, because it's rough, it's not, it's just me and Mike.
Mhm.
So there's a lot riding on it. You got to make sure you bring in enough finances. You're like, I was like, well, I got to bring in money in order to get paid. So it's a little nerve wracking, but Mike is like, we got this. Look at this. Look at these numbers. This is what we're doing.
Mhm.
What are you doing? Why are you, giving this? We got to go together. And then eventually, my wife also, along with Mike and several other people, said, you really should do this. I mean, you got to go out. You got a good skill set. And the same thing with my wife. I was like, I don't know. What if I go to law school and fail? And she goes, well, I don't think it's going to happen, but you got to go. And then like Mike, graduate, great GPA, high in the class. And so she lords that over me all the time. So, but I did. It was the law school thing. I'll tell you the story is she pushed me. We were dating at the time, living together. It was only after I got through the first year that I proposed to her. Because I don't think she would have said yes if I had been. It wasn't even like after the first year. I was like, I had to make sure the grades were good the first semester. Yes. She's like, no.
I think we should see other people.
I love you and all, but
I met this guy in logistics.
Goes, is that a 2-2? Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna work out.
I don't know if you thought about it like this, but being somebody who didn't come from lawyers and everything like that, and you're in a position where there's a lot of money on the line for law school, obviously. When I sat down first semester for those exams, you got to figure it's 20 grand a semester. You got 4 finals. Yeah. I said, I'm literally walking into these tests. This is $5 grand a piece. And that was, I couldn't even comprehend that. My car cost $800, That's
probably why you're more motivated though too.
It is. Yeah. It is a lot. It's and I think it helps. And I've had family members said to me that. They said, because a lot of lawyers, upper middle class kids, right? That's where they come from. That's, nothing against that, but I think what helps is one, I'm motivated. I didn't come from, anything, and what it does is I know both sides of the street. So I think it helps me tremendously in everything that I do, because, I'm like, that's nonsense. Like, come on. I've known people who've done illegal activity for far longer or are better at this than you, and you're terrible. And knowing both sides of the street allows you to see things differently. Right. And I honestly tell you, when I've represented some of my clients, they appreciate that, because I never, ever, ever find myself talking down to anybody. Right. And I find that a lot of people get frustrated with attorneys like, this guy who got in trouble. I would never know. I'm like, well, you're just a new guy. I mean, you're everyday guy. So I tell Mike, I'm like, people get all upset. Like, I represent any independently wealthy people. I tell Mike all the time, I got to, represent Elon Musk for one criminal case, charge him about $10 million, and then I'm retired. That's about it for me. Mike's like,
we'll replay this episode in 5 years.
Right. So, is there some drunk space, thing when he shoots up? He's drunk. I charge him like $10 million. I don't, but I represent regular people. And I think my appreciation, and I'm sure Mike feels the same way, about helping regular people, everyday people get up and work hard every day, is some of the best satisfaction that I can. And when it comes to criminal defense, don't get me wrong, I've represented some bad people. I have. There are some people I can think of off the top of my head were generally bad people I've represented. Got no problem doing that. But most of the people I represent are really having or had one of the worst days of their lives. And it's my job to shepherd them through that and make sure society and the courts don't judge them by their worst day. And that's really what I go for. I really take a family-focused approach to all my cases, not just CYS, because when somebody's in trouble, firearms rights is the same way, the way they protect their family. It's not just about the client. It's also about their family, because how that works affects numerous other people's. And, their wife, their kids, their aunts, their uncles, their parents, their future prospects. So I take and Mike takes a whole approach, right? I want to, we're okay. It's going to affect your wife. You're going to have to go through this, and explaining that to people and understanding and empathizing with their situation is important.
Yeah.
Love it. So I don't want to keep you too long, but I think we're going to go in, and you wanted the full breakdown. Oh, let me tell you this story and hear what you think about it in terms of the guilty plea when I was out with Sitchko. And was it the first time you met Sitchko when we did that conference?
It was. We've talked on the phone a whole bunch, And then, yeah, I said, I think he told the story. It's like, I've talked to him on the phone a few times. I liked him. I really like him now that I've met him face to face.
Yeah.
We went after the class, went out for cigars and had a little drink there. And it was spectacular. We were just telling war stories. I was like, definitely need to do a case with that guy. I know he's in Pittsburgh, but I have got to get a case with that guy.
Well, it'll happen. I work cases with him all the time. He's like an older brother to me. And
right.
He's been practicing a lot longer than we have. But after he got to meet you and talk to you and everything, and he was staying at my house for the 2-day conference. So on the way back, after we got to spend some time with you, he said, I know you had talked about potentially getting him to join your firm, but if you could get this guy, you need to get him. You know, you need to make that happen if you can. That'll be a big move for you guys. So he thought very highly of you as well. What a panel that was. That was incredible. I
really enjoyed
the
that.
Justice Brothers, Rich Roberts, Mike Giramita. We had Brett Regal, who's a legend out of the Poconos. We had Brian Sitchko out of Pittsburgh and Gilbert Ambler.
Yeah.
Great panel. It was so much fun. And we had Phil Intreri, who showed up as an attendee, and we called him a quasi-panel member. He's a real OG out of Harrisburg who has been doing gun law for quite some time.
The panel was great. No, the panel was great. Brett Regal has my absolute favorite story of all time. Time.
So, hold on, I'll let you tell that. But just so everybody's aware, what we're talking about is every year attorneys have to take so many hours of continuing legal education. And I had the opportunity to make my own course for other lawyers and assemble a panel. And so we put together the absolute dream team. And we did a 2-day course, which would satisfy your credits for the entire year. So if somebody attended our course, they wouldn't have to do any continuing legal education for the rest of the year. And we talked all gun law the whole time. It was strictly on gun law. We had, I think the furthest participant we had drove in and stayed the night from West Virginia, which I thought that was pretty fantastic. It was pretty cool. And what Dave was saying Dave Doriaga from Simply CLE was our host, and I was very thankful for him giving us the opportunity. It's going to be a yearly thing now. We'll do it once a year. But he was saying the next year they might open it up to non-attorneys, and their fee would be reduced because they're not doing it for credit. They don't need certain things that go along with that. So I think that non-attorneys will show up next year if we give them the opportunity to do so, because we're just talking gun law for 2 days in a row. Yeah. There was not a dull moment in those 2 days. I mean, I had an absolute blast. Maybe part of it's because I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to this stuff.
Well, yeah, you definitely are like the encyclopedia filling in the stuff we're all looking in like, no, Mike knows the answer to this question. Those obscure gun law questions, which is great. But, yeah, I think people would not enjoy it. I mean, I think the only thing that really wouldn't apply to the non-lawyers is how do you deal with clients in certain situations, especially in these, like clients who've never been in trouble before, especially when we talk about self-defense law. Clients come in and have done nothing wrong. Why am I being charged? But that could help because those non-lawyers in the group could find themselves being that particular client in that situation. How do you deal with a client? How do you explain, what is a justification defense? Why am I being charged? Well, Mike, it's a legal excuse, right? Generally, what you did is a crime, right? We're like, generally, shooting somebody is a crime, right? We can all agree to that. Yeah. Well, under certain specific circumstances, the law says this illegal act is excused based on the law. So that's why, we tell people, I know Mike and I have given seminars throughout the state, like this is a legal excuse. If the prosecutor doesn't charge you, it's not because they can't. There's nothing that says if this is the case, we can't. They go, what a good prosecutor should do, look at the facts and say, can I prove beyond a reasonable doubt this person was not defending themselves justifiably? If they say, I cannot do that, they shouldn't charge you because that's what they shouldn't do. That's serving justice. I can't prove the case. This guy was justifiable in his actions. We don't charge him. And he should look at if he thinks he can, then he does charge you. But even if he thinks he can't, doesn't mean he can't charge you. I mean, that's just the way the system works. And people never, it's tough sometimes for clients to wrap their heads around it. But yeah, it was an absolute blast. We went out, we went to the range after it. Some of the attendees showed up. Mike brought some fun stuff. My shoulder's still bothering me a little bit. First time I went off, I was in a lane He's like, I'm going to use this. And, you get the ear protection on, so you're not really hearing conversation. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm like, oh, that'll get somebody's attention.
That the building shakes when you shoot that AR pistol.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. You're like, oh, sorry about that. I'm like, you could have warned me.
Rich goes to shoot that.
I got the thing on.
And Rich goes to shoot the AR pistol. Now, it's different when you are shooting it. You'll admit that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You really don't hear it like that when you're shooting it. But if you're in the next lane, it's...
I was in the next lane. Whoa! If you didn't have ear protection on, I wouldn't have been able to hear anything for a week and a half.
Done, yeah.
You would have been done. Yeah.
But I didn't have the opportunity to put sights on the AR pistol yet. So there's no optic and no sights whatsoever. So Rich picks it up, and the first two shots I hear ping, ping. I'm like, lower. It's like, how you can shoot it with no sights? You really gotta be careful with that.
Oh, that's great.
You gotta shoot this thing, and I get it. I'm looking at it. He's like, yeah, it doesn't have any sights or anything on it. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah. that was a lot of fun though, and we got to go to the cigar shop. Excellent time. So why don't you tell your favorite Brett Regal story?
Favorite Brett Regal story. It's one of my favorite stories of all time, and we had him tell it at the class. So Mike and I are up there doing just a vanilla DUI case, right? So we're up there. It's Monroe County. We're doing a vanilla DUI case. Pretty simple. I think we ended up being an ARD case, right? First offense, blah, blah, blah. So Brett's up there, and he's like, hey, guys, and we're just, going. And then he's talking about some cases. And then there was this case where he represented an individual, and he thought that the police had planted evidence. And that part of this cross-examination was that the police planted evidence. And the DA who was there at the time was the DA in that case.
Yeah.
Right? He's the DA who prosecuted that case where Brett accused the police of planting evidence. Gets a not guilty verdict. And he's like, I do remember that case, Brett. You accused me of planting evidence in that case. And I went, oh. And then Mike and I just stopped talking. And we're like, it was funny, but that's a little serious. He's like, Brett's like, I definitely did not accuse you. He's like, I remember that case clearly. I know it was like 8 years ago. You accused me on 4 separate occasions in front of the jury. He looks at me and he goes, oh, my bad. And I see him. I'm like, did you really? He's like, I didn't think I did, but if I did, what are you gonna do? I gotta get the not guilty. I'm like,
he's like, oh. Sorry. I was dying. That was great.
I'll do better next time.
I'm like, and then Mike and I was like, he hasn't signed the paperwork. I'm like, we're laughing. I'm like, hold on. Before I continue laughing, we're still good with ARD for a client. Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'm going to continue laughing now.
Hey, we didn't ruin anything by being affiliated with the Brett, did we? That was so funny. He's great. We got to get him on the show sometime. That would be awesome to have him on the show. I got to tell you the Sitchko story. Well, one funny Sitchko story is I'm working this case in this county, and the prosecutor's name is arugula. You know what arugula is?
Mm-hmm. Like the lettuce stuff?
Vegetable, yeah. So Sitchko kept calling him spinach to me. He kept calling him spinach. So I go to talk to the guy in court face to face when we were having the negotiation, because Sitchko is my co-counsel, but he couldn't make it for that hearing because he's in Pittsburgh and it's on this side of the state. But we had worked out exactly what we were going to do. The strategy was, so when you talk to spinach, just tell him this. And so I pick up the phone and like, hey, I call him spinach to his face. I cut myself off and start laughing. Then when I saw him in person, I just couldn't stop laughing because all I could think of was Sitchko calling him spinach.
Did he know that Sitchko called him spinach? He's like, I hate that guy.
He did not know that. No. So
he knows now.
The plea case is actually an interesting one because this is, I don't know if you'd call it funny, but basically what happened was there was this case where a bunch of guys were charged drug-related offenses. There was a house, a bunch of guys living in the house, and the accusation was that one guy was the ringleader and they were all selling drugs out of the house. Now, Sitchko's client allegedly, they found his jacket laying on the side somewhere that had some drugs in it. So it's not like they're accusing him of being the ringleader or whatever, but that was his involvement. He happens to be white. The supposed ringleader happens to be black. There are a bunch of different guys of different races who were being charged and lived in the same house. So Sitchko files like a 70-page omnibus pretrial motion where, suppression issues, all kinds of major problems where if the DA has to fight this and they lose on certain things, their case could get kicked or it's going to become significantly weaker. Ultimately, the DA offers his guy a misdemeanor and probation. Well, the ringleader's attorney didn't file any motions and was ultimately going to plea him into a felony with probation. So they get in front of the judge and they explain what everybody's pleading guilty to. And the judge looks at it, he says, I see what's going on here. Says the white guy gets the misdemeanor and the black guy gets the felonies. You know what? I'm not participating in this S word. You gotta be effing kidding me. He takes the file and literally throws it across the bench, gets up and walks out of the courtroom.
Oh, wow.
And of course, Sitchko's attitude, he just looks at me and he's like, okay. And so he walked down the hall and found some other judge to take the plea, and the judge didn't care. I mean, the defendant who was pleading to the felony, he was not complaining. He was like, listen, I'm staying at a jail. That guy, Sitchko's guy got caught with maybe a bag in his jacket. This guy got caught with a ton of stuff. And so this is actually a pretty good deal all around. And there were a bunch of legitimate reasons why it was going down that way. But I remember I ran into Judge Terry. I was like, Judge, hypothetically, let's say something like this happened. He said, that guy should be reported to the D board, the Board of Judicial Conduct. He said, that's ridiculous for them to do that without considering any of the facts of the case and simply refusing. And, I forgot to mention this. In the tirade where he says he's not accepting it and he's cursing at everybody, he calls Sitchko a racist. He calls the prosecutor a racist.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
On the record. On the record. Goes out there and says, you're a racist. You're a racist. You're a racist.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He probably needed a drink. He went in the back and had a drink or something.
There's some judges that go in front of him, and I swear they go home and beat their wives.
Something's not right there. Yeah, that's crazy. That's like a scene out of a movie or something.
What do you think of that, Rich?
Yeah.
Have you ever dealt with anything
That's a little
remotely
nuts.
similar to that?
I don't have anything I've never been called a racist on the record. I can tell you that. I've never been called a racist on the record. I've been told in Erie County once I was defending a DUI homicide case. And he's like, I don't know how you can sleep at night. And I almost said pretty well, actually. I don't care. But I didn't say it because the victim's family.
On a pillow?
Tough. I mean, you can't. Right, on a pillow? A nice
Yeah.
bed? I mean, unfortunately, today I'm stuck in a hotel, so, it's okay.
Used to be in
But, I mean,
logistics. Now I'm a lawyer. I sleep pretty good.
I'm a lawyer. I sleep pretty good. Pays better. Does it? It does, but, law
Some
school's
expenses,
expensive,
though,
so
right?
I don't see
Yeah.
that much. Right? It got some
Yeah.
expenses here. But, I mean, do I have any stuff? I've never been called a racist, but I've always have issues with, and it's certainly the judge's prerogative to reject pleas or accept pleas, but I always have a really tough time when judges really want to reject a plea, because the reason I get upset with it is, like, a DA and a defense attorney know the case in and out, right? And we've worked on it, we've negotiated, this is an agreement, the DA finds it acceptable, we find it acceptable, judge is like, I don't like it. I'm like, dude, this is the first time you've seen the case and you've got like a paragraph? Do you even know?
Right.
I'm like, why are you rejecting it? And I go, I don't understand why it is, because I've been in where DA's like, I'm fine with that, but we got to get the judge to accept it. I'm like, what does the judge know about the case? I mean, unless you got a first-degree homicide case that you're pleading down to disorderly conduct, then I'd be like, well, hold on, what's going on here? But if you're not doing anything real crazy, I'm like, well, obviously everybody thinks it's okay. I don't know why, person. I've had it where the victim's like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Judge's like, I don't know if I'm good with this. I'm like, the person who's the victim of the crime has said, yeah, this is acceptable to me.
Right.
You're gonna say no. What?
Sounds like justice.
Yeah, I know. It's like, come on, judge. Just, and then we got to spend. I'm like, why am I spending? This is supposed to be easy. What are we doing here? So, I mean, you run into stuff like that. It takes all types. It really depends on the judge, and then, we'll go from there. Sometimes judges, one story I have, I think it might have been, Mike's favorite county in Chester. trying to do a DUI plea to an A1, right, which is the lowest level DUI, except there was marijuana found in my client's system, which legally, right, is not an A1 offense. But prosecutor was fine. I was fine. Judge was like, I don't think I could do that. And I'm like, what? He's like, well, A1's alcohol only. And I go, I know. He's like, but there's no alcohol in the system. And I go, yeah, we know. It's A1's fine. And he's like, I'm going to say substance, and I'll be able to do it that way. I go, all right, whatever, dude.
I don't care what you call it.
I don't care what you call it. Just let him do it. And then we always have the thing. I was like, well, okay, I get that. Well, I'm not going to appeal. And look at the day. You're going to appeal? No. Then I mean, you know,
We're good.
are you going to say? Yeah, I know. It was funny. He's like, I'll have to call it substance. Is that okay? I'm like, I don't. You can call it
fairy
whatever you
dust.
want. I don't care.
Call it fairy dust. Is the grading going to be the same?
Is the grading in the sentence the same? Yes. You can call it whatever you want, Judge. I don't
Whatever
care.
you want.
He'll
That's
plead
good.
guilty to having whatever you say that makes it happy in his system. Fairy dust, he admits guilty. I had fairy dust in my system, and I was driving that car. Cool. Deal. Whatever.
This must
So
have been the Elon Musk
find
case.
right. And I go, I don't, I'm like, whatever. And it's just stuff like that. It gets frustrating, you know,
lay
but
off fairy dust.
we all have it. And, you know, it's pretty professional. It's pretty professional. And I always appreciate that. And the one thing I think is lawyers, you can't take stuff personal, because it's not. It's just not. It's my job. And anybody who takes it personal, go ahead.
What's the most unprofessional thing you guys have seen in the courtroom?
Most unprofessional thing I've seen in courtroom. Lawyers just getting out of hand. I think
Okay.
a little over the top. I'm good for advocacy. We talked about it earlier, but yelling, screaming, being obnoxious, I'm like, you know, that's not helping your case at all. Right? You know, I'm like, my client really likes it. The client gonna like it when he gets his teeth kicked in or launched from a judge? I don't know.
Right,
I don't know if
right.
you're really doing a favor.
Right.
Right? Because there's ways to argue, there's ways to do it, but be professional,
Sure.
you know, about it. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it was the most unprofessional thing. The only time I really got frustrated with a DA was in Adams County. I can't remember the DA's name. And there was this old guy who was leaving Michigan to go live with his son in Maryland because his wife had cheated on him for like 30 years. He caught him. He was driving down. He parks in his sheets. Right? And he's got like a U-Haul attached to his truck. He's going to get water for his dog. Right? He walks with a cane. You know, he's old, but he doesn't have his cane. So he's like limping. So this off-duty fire person who's like 75 feet away getting gas says, think he's drunk. What? So, you know, they pull him over. They bust him. The cop busts him. He had no alcohol, but prescription medication that he's been taking, like heart pressure medication. And it wasn't even like the opioids or anything like that. They charged him with a DI. I'm like, are you kidding me? So he had a first offense. He had a pretty bad case, like before I was born, like the 70s. So he wasn't eligible for the pretrial diversionary program. So because it's a drug
ridiculous.
case,
That's ridiculous.
which is ridiculous, right? That's okay, fine. So they're like, well, he's got to do 3 days. I'm like, can't we do it? Wouldn't move it. Wouldn't do a general impairment. So eventually, I got him to agree to a house arrest. But because he was in Maryland, he had to rent a hotel room in Pennsylvania for 3 days. Wear a dumb ankle monitor for 3 days. He was okay with that. Fine, good, done. So we get to the day of the plea, and the elected DA is there covering in Adams County. Okay. And he's like, we're not doing that. I said, I'm sorry, what? So I was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm not allowing my assistant to do that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, this is an old guy, da, 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 da. And needless to say, he was pulled over in hour. It's the only time I've ever called a state trooper in the defense's case. Pulled him over an hour before he stopped at the Sheets for speeding on the turnpike or whatever. Just gave him a speeding ticket, left. Called him in. Like, come on, you're testifying. You know, so like, how was he drunk? He's like, I've been a billion arrests. You know, it was great. So he frustrated me so angry. I said, you know what? I get up there. Judge Campbell's on the bench. And he said, Judge, he's like, what's going on? Is this going to plea? I said, no, Your Honor. Came through. The deal fell through. We're going to list it for trial. And I would like to inform the court that I'm going to kick his expletive rear end. And I'm sorry. I said, and then I'm going to do it. He goes, all right, it's a bench trial, right? I said, yep. Like, you available? You know, I said, yep. And then, so we go through the bench trial. It's in front of Judge Campbell. He's like, well, you got a bit of you gave a guarantee, Joe Namath. Let's see what you got. Case, he gets the thing. A doctor comes up, testifies, the lab. He goes through. He asks a couple of questions. He gets to the end. He goes back in his chambers. He comes back out. He goes through the whole thing. He's like, I've never seen a trooper testify for a defendant before. It's crazy. At least not as an expert. He was a fact witness. I've seen the former troopers as an expert. He goes through the whole thing. He finds my guy not guilty. He's like, Joe Namath was right in his guarantee. Not guilty on this one. So the DA's packing up, and I was like, I told you I was going to kick, and then your two expletives at the end. And I said, I told you should have listened to me. I stormed out the courtroom. And I see the guy like a week later, he just wouldn't look at me. I was so angry just because I thought they were being ridiculous. And that's the only time I've ever acted like that in court, ever.
I think it's awesome. I think it's great that you stood up for your client that way. I mean, how many lawyers would go through that to do it,
Well,
yeah,
the problem was is I gave the guarantee, and I'm like, we're in trouble now.
Better call in the state trooper.
Yeah, no, I did. He's like, it's going to cost your client $10 to testify. I was like, I'll pay that personally. We're good. Let's go. We're good. Send a subpoena. Where do I send a subpoena? Like, he's like, testify. Asked him. He's like, yeah, I've done like a bazillion DUI. If he was under the influence, I would have arrested him. He wouldn't have made it to Sheets.
Yeah, it's a great strategy because he can't say anything else. He can't say anything else, or he's going to lose his job.
That is true, right? It is
true.
True. Even if he did think the guy was, what was he going to say? Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy, he was totally wasted. I totally should have arrested him. But I figured, he'll probably make it without killing anybody.
Yeah, I was just ready to go home.
Yeah, like he said, he's only a few hours, and it's a straight shot. I'm like,
it's fine.
I told him to stop at the Sheets and get himself some coffee,
Right. Yeah, right. Coffee will waken you up. You're going to need it by
maybe slap some water on your face.
He gave me $50, and I was like, stop at the Sheets up there.
Yeah, no, it was the only time that I've ever been seriously angry because just the way they treated this guy, it bothered me to no end. And that was the only time I said that. And it was funny because, like, did you say that? I was like, said it on the record. I need that transcript.
That's awesome. Yeah, you should get that.
I wonder.
You should hang that up in your office, actually. That'd be good.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. But it was,
Rich, you have that transcript of that jury trial, the felony jury trial that I sent over to you that one time.
Oh, yeah.
Where we crushed him. That one, a lot of my listeners know that I have a loved one who I'm the sole caretaker and is at a series of health issues, some of them being surgeries. And we're able to get them in for a surgery out of state on short notice. The trial was scheduled for Monday, to begin on Monday, and that flight was leaving on Wednesday. So I was concerned that, we run over, I'm out of luck, we're not going to be able to finish this thing. So I requested a continuance and told the DA exactly, hey, here's what's going on. I'm really sorry, but we've been trying to get them in for this surgery for a long time. I've got to go. I'm the sole caretaker. Would you mind continuing this out another month? And we'll do it next month. And DA said, nope. No. So I was just like, really? And so Hoover was my co-counsel on the case, and I said, hey, here's what happened. He said, well, if we ask the judge, I'm sure the judge would understand and whether or not they consent, because that's just ridiculous. And I thought about it. I thought about if we get done by Tuesday and the jury's out for a very short period of time, then I'll be out of there on Wednesday. Because they denied that continuance, I'm going to embarrass them. I'm going to go to trial. We're going to absolutely slaughter them and crush them. And the jury's not going to be out for more than an hour. And we did. I remember leaving. I left. We got done with the closing statements and the jury instructions around, I don't know, 11:45. So I left and I went to the cigar shop and smoked something, got something to eat, and we get a call back like an hour and 15 minutes later. The jury had a verdict.
Just long enough to eat lunch.
That's what somebody told us. Somebody told us that they would have done it sooner, but they wanted the lunch because it was free.
Right, like, you think it'll come back? They come back that long. I'm like, they wanted lunch. That's what they did. They had their mind made up, but they're like, we're not leaving right now. We're good.
Right.
Sign the paperwork. Just tell them we're hungry and we need lunch. Eat. Everybody's
we need
done.
food.
Everybody done. All right, let's get out of here.
That's funny. That's funny.
Along those lines. But Chris, I think that's actually a good idea for an episode topic. If Rich and I sort of think about what are the most unprofessional things that we've ever encountered, one that comes to the top of my
I would
head,
love to hear it.
I would love to have Sitchko tell this story, but I know he handled a case for the daughter of one of my clients because the daughter was in school in Western Pennsylvania. And he goes to the DJ's office and he says, permission to record the proceedings, Your Honor. And the judge said, oh, no, you're not recording anything in here. He's like, I'm sorry. When I asked you, I was just being polite because I've got every right to record it. And I'm going to record it. And the judge is like, you start recording, I'm going to have the constable escort you out of here in handcuffs. He was like, well, then I guess you're going to have the constable escort me out of here in handcuffs.
Really? Really? Wow.
Because you can't do that. You know, you don't have the authority to do that. I think that's pretty wildly unprofessional, don't you?
I've had that in an NDJ's office, and if you ever look at the preliminary hearing notice, it says on the notice itself that you have the right to make a stenographic or electronic recording of the proceedings. I remember showing that to an MDJ. We don't allow it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, the notice you sends out says it. She's like, MDJ goes, no, it doesn't. So I hand her the notice. Like, where does it say that? I read it, and she goes, all right, you can record.
Well, it's specifically in the rules of criminal procedure.
It's in the rules of criminal procedure, and it's literally on the notice. I say the rules, like, oh, the rules, blah, blah, blah. And I go, the notice you sent my client says right here. And she goes, let me see that notice. I walk it up.
What do you mean the rules, blah, blah, blah?
There was like the president judge issued a local rule, and I'm like, I don't care.
You can't have a local rule that violates the rules of criminal procedure.
Well, I think the way it was in that was they were trying to get the stenographers a little extra cheese. So if you wanted to have a prelim, you'd have to bring in a stenographer who obviously has to pay separate. Because the reason, personally, I record the proceedings and not get a stenographer. Now, if it's like an attempted murder case, I probably get a stenographer.
Right.
But I record it. Mike knows, like, you can pay somebody to transcribe the recording, and it's far cheaper than it is to get a stenographer. You pay a few $100. And for, like, again, don't have independently wealthy clients. If I can, save my client $800 because I can record it, send it off, get it transcribed for $200 as opposed to $1,000 plus the price of the transcript for a stenographer to come to a prelim, I'm going to do that. Right. So that's really what it is it really comes down, I talked to judges, it really comes down to cost saving thing, right? If it's my client wants to do it, it's a couple $100. I send this off to a couple companies that we know. I still use the one that Justin always sent them to. Right. And then he would go,
do you use, we should give them a shout out. Is it the same one? Because Kathy Lee is the one who gave me, is it Linda?
Yep.
I still use Linda's. Linda's the,
No,
if anybody ever needs a court reporter, you got to call Linda.
Yeah, so I mean that's really what I do because I'm not, if I can save my client a few dollars, I'm going to do that anywhere I can. But
Premier Reporting LLC, Linda at Premier Reporting in Carlisle. If anybody ever needs something transcribed, you call Linda over at Premier Reporting. Linda Larson. Maybe it's Len Larson's cousin, Linda Larson. All right, Rich, we're going to let you go. We appreciate you joining us. Get into Liberty's Breakdown so you can catch that.
Liberty's Breakdown. I am
Liberty's Breakdown of the Amber Heard trial. You can catch that tomorrow when you're driving into work.
I will. I'll have to do that.
Welcome to the firm.
Congrats again,
thanks
Rich.
for having me.
Congrats
Appreciate
again.
the opportunity, and I will see Mike tomorrow, I assume,
Sounds good. When we open up the new office, we'll be sure to take a picture for everybody.
Open up the new office. So am I supposed to wear a suit and tie tomorrow? Is that what we're doing?
I don't think I'm wearing a suit and tie. So
because I wasn't.
Casual Friday. Casual Friday.
I was going to get on Casual Friday. I wasn't, but he was talking about we're going to take pictures. I'm like, oh.
That's. I don't know if it's so much for everybody else, but it'll be a nice memory in 20 years when we retire. And remember that day?
Remember that day when we started? Yeah. That was a long time ago. A lot less stress ago. Definitely a lot less stress ago. But no, I'm excited. I'm glad you guys had me on again. It was a great announcement. I've been looking forward to it. I think I was getting ready for the show like an hour before you guys got me on. I was like, I'm ready to go, Mike. Mike's like, the show's up for now. I was like, I don't care. I'm ready to go.
We're going to go ahead and post that video, so feel free to share it with your friends and family members and your clients. All right, Rich?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell them to go to the website. We're there. Give us a call. You got any CYS criminal law, firearms law needs, give us a call. There's my
That's
free
right.
There we
promotion.
go.
That is what we do. All right, Rich,
There you
thanks
go.
for joining us.
Take it easy, Mike. Have a good one.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So interesting. Marlene just said, wow, piping in. Give Marlene a hey now.
Hey now, Marlene. Hey now.
Hey now. You know, Marlene mentioned one time in the comments when I told that story about my dream with John Lennon, where
Oh, yeah.
he was going to play me the song, and I woke up and Marlene said, you know, you need to write a John Lennon song. I think I've got one.
You have to do
I was
that. brother.
I was working
wanna
on
hear it.
one. I was talking to
Mhm.
Jazzy Ralph about getting in the studio and getting it done.
Be
So,
awesome.
Marlene, your wish may have been granted.
Coming up next week.
That'd be cool.
Or soon.
So,
Yeah.
so the star of the rest of this program is Liberty Lee, who's going to bring us up to speed on the ins and outs, full breakdown of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Liberty, are you with us?
Yes.
As I understand, well, wait, do we have 2-week-old news?
Well, I just told him to call in at 8:45.
Okay, that's fine. So
Okay.
let's start with the Amber Heard trial.
I'm excited to hear what Liberty has to say. I haven't really seen too much of the trial, so I'm excited to get all caught up on it.
Everywhere.
Mm.
Billy Chris, where have you been?
I've been avoiding the news, all the TV lately.
Probably smart.
Yeah, taking a break.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody's already seen everything. I just want to kind of start with the main takeaway, in my opinion, is imagine this was criminal. What could have happened to Johnny back during the Me Too movement was going on if this was criminal? What if she filed?
Well, is it over?
Yeah, it's over.
The
What
Me
if
Too? No, I'm saying the Me Too movement is over.
I'll explain it at the end of this.
Okay.
What if she
I
filed?
don't think it's over.
Back then, people are falsely accused every single day. Mike sees it, Rich sees it, Brian sees it, all these attorneys see it. And it's one of the worst things that can happen to a person. So while I've been on Twitter and people are ripping her to shreds and she's trending with all these hashtags against her, I think the reason behind why people are so mad and why this was such a big case is because, and it's important we have an intelligent conversation about it, because the most important takeaway is if you're taking advantage of any movement like the Me Too movement, which is this big thing, one that takes away others' rights or defames somebody else, falsely accusing someone, whether you're a man or a woman, it's wrong and it needs to be talked about more. The Me Too movement was like a freight train coming for men, and that's not the right thing, especially with regarding the law. And Amber absolutely took advantage of that, and the ACLU, huge organization, and has a lot of pull in the media, jumped right on it and helped her write this op-ed, and it spiraled out of control to this. And someone who's not a celebrity and doesn't have the pull that Johnny Depp has to fight back, even though he's defamed in front of the world, so he didn't like that, you know, with his kids and everything, he didn't want them to see that. But think of somebody who wasn't a celebrity and how much worse it would be for them just in their little world, and it's just smashed to shreds, right? They could lose their rights. They can lose everything they worked for. And I think that's the big takeaway from this case, especially this being a law program, because it could happen to anybody. It could happen to your brother or your son, or it can happen to anybody, male or female. And so now to the fun parts of the case. It was actually funny because the verdict was announced yesterday and everybody's waiting for it. And so the jury gets there and they realize that the jury did not fill out the damages amount.
Oh.
So the judge ordered them back to the deliberation room to actually fill in the amount. And she said it has to be over $1, you know. So clearly somebody got damages, right? So we all just didn't know who got the damages. So we had to wait. But it was a hint. So all law experts were trying to guess who got it. They were thinking it was Johnny for sure, because they said he didn't want money. So they're like, if they forgot to do the money part, then it must be that he got the damages, right? Because they forgot about it. They're like, he just wants to be cleared of this.
Right.
The fun part was that Amber was writing furiously, like Mike was saying before, throughout the entire trial. I mean, she was writing novels. I mean, if you saw her attorney sitting there, and not once did the attorneys look over their shoulder and see like what the heck she was writing, right? So
they probably didn't want to know.
Yeah, I was wondering if Mike said,
This lady's nuts.
Right.
They- I mean, it was curious. It was like somebody was writing in a journal, like,
They have plausible deniability then, right, Mike? They don't know what she's right.
yeah. And I think maybe we might have had that conversation that Mike was talking about beforehand. Like, if you don't make faces, because she did keep a really good poker face throughout the entire thing. And very surprisingly, we all were not expecting that. And so I think she wrote down her feelings on that paper or something, you know.
Oh, okay.
Now, to Mike's point, because Mike had actually made this point over the past week, was that the allegations, this is kind of the whole thing. I think the allegations were so over the top, like we spoke about last week, that Amber did not have the evidence to back up her claims, period. She just did not. The attorneys, Johnny's attorneys did a great job at poking holes in her story. And then all the witnesses came through the woodworks. He had celebrity like Kate Moss come and speak on his behalf, that she never pushed him down the stairs, that he never, beat her when they were together, and they were together for a long time. He had, exes come out. He had just the casual workers that saw somebody like a groundskeeper at a place they stayed that observed them. People came out of the woodwork, whether it was, small or big. And Elaine, Amber's attorney, kept saying, "You're coming out because you want your 15 minutes of fame." And people are like, why the heck would I want that? Like, this is actually bad for me, especially the TMZ worker, because he said he could be sued by his company for actually giving this information out there. So people were coming out in defense for Johnny. He had the witnesses, he had the evidence, he had people come out, and he had pictures. We could clearly see a black eye, whereas Amber is claiming she got, again, sorry for the language, but raped by a bottle, and was bleeding, but did not have pictures. It wasn't that you don't have to take pictures, because Amber's attorneys were saying, if you're abused, you have to have, Amber's attorneys are saying, so you're saying if you don't have pictures, then you weren't abused. That's what you're saying to all victims. It's like, no. Amber has a pattern of taking pictures and videos of Johnny. So you're telling me that she just didn't happen to take pictures of the worst injuries. She took pictures of all the other things. Tiny little bruises or something that she says was from him, but she had this, there was a big thing about a makeup kit that she may have created bruises on her face, and she kind of slipped up a couple times, and so like almost like a bruise painting kit that actually makes bruises rather than takes them away. So she had some weird slip ups during the trial.
That's weird,
Yeah. And so and the other thing about her was she was trying to convince the jury that she's like a normal, everyday person. And I feel like Johnny wasn't trying to do that. He's like, I am Johnny Depp. I have money. I pay a lot of people. She was kind of like, I'm normal, and kind of trying always to convince them, And I think that just being who you are is important to the jury. And she clearly came off as acting. She embellished a lot, had a lot of heavy breathing. Every time the attorney asked her something, she would turn every single time and turn and look at the jury. And like, it almost gave her some time to like think of what she was going to say. And she just was clearly acting. She would get herself gearing up for a cry, but we never saw tears. These are all important things to the jury, So the moral of that is, don't stare at the jury with every single answer. Like, talk to your attorney once in a while too. And then Johnny, he spoke like a normal person. He has a lot of tics and issues with his speaking. He talks slow and nervous. And I think that.
Yeah, that's one thing I never realized about him, is the way he talks when he's not on screen or acting or anything that. Yeah. It was very slow, and there are interesting pauses. And
yeah, I think that off as real. It came off as a genuine person who may have damage. He didn't try to.
That's true. That's true. He didn't come off as polished or acting or anything like that. It's like, well, if you're gonna make it up, why would you do it like that?
Right.
If you're gonna be acting, you'd want to come off a little bit like you got your stuff together than he did.
He didn't try to deny that he was a drinker and that he, had a lot of issues. He didn't try to deny anything. He just laid it out there. He's like, I am who I am. I'm not perfect, but this has happened. Amber did not take blame for anything. It was just all accusatory of horrific, being dragged across glass. And it was just over the top. And
she seemed a bit over the top from what I saw. Yeah,
absolutely. And
I didn't see much, but
and it just came off unbelievable. And so at the end of the trial, both attorneys put their clients up there for rebuttals. And I think Amber's side was very wrong for doing that. She came back up in the stand and I think ended on a really bad note. And, just having her up there, I think she's not a great client for the stand. And Johnny came back up and he laid it all out there again, said he lost his whole life with this. And and at the end, I think the jury looks at evidence. We all were like, what is the jury thinking? At the end of the day, they're normal people. They look at evidence and they look at credibility, you know? So what we're thinking wasn't really that far off, you know? Sometimes sometimes jury comes up with these wild wild conclusions, but at the end of the day, they are people. And it's like, are they seeing what we're seeing? We're all wondering that, you know?
Right, right.
And so it was 5 men and 2 women. And Rottenborn, I thought this was interesting for Mike. Rottenborn, who is Amber's attorney, his closing argument brought up a freedom of speech issue and the Constitution. And they tried to frame it as a freedom of speech issue and the Constitution and her rights to say something. However, we're hearing, and I'm not sure if, Mike, this is true, but it's not, defamation is not a First Amendment issue. So he tried to make it something it wasn't. Do you agree or not? Is Mike still-
There are First Amendment issues with defamation claims for sure, because it depends. That will dictate which standard gets applied legally speaking and which standard they can apply constitutionally. If you're a public figure and it's a matter of public concern, there's a higher standard, meaning you have to prove that there was actual malice, which somebody is intentionally spreading false information, or somebody maybe didn't know that the information was false, but they weren't diligent enough they didn't care to find out. They didn't look into it at all.
Okay.
Whereas if you're a private party, if you're not a public figure, it's a matter of private concern, then the standard's not going to be as high. And the idea is if you've put yourself in the limelight, and you could be a public figure for certain situations, but not for others. So, unless you've thrust yourself into the limelight for that kind of an issue, if you're a basketball player, that doesn't make you a public figure for other reasons necessarily.
Okay.
So that's why the First Amendment would potentially come into play. But this doesn't sound like this kind of a case. This sounds like either she was lying or she wasn't lying. It doesn't sound like there was much to be made of the fact that she put something out there about him that wasn't true, but, well, I didn't look into it enough, but wasn't required to look into it enough. So maybe that's why he said the First Amendment shouldn't apply, and, doesn't really come into play. It's not really relevant here.
But she was kind of saying, like, they were kind of making the point that it's her right to say.
It's not her right to make stuff up.
That's what they were trying to say, is that it's her truth, right? We hear that a lot. My
goodness.
It's she believes happened, and it's what she really and her attorneys believe in her, that this happened to her, and that she should be able to go out there and speak. However, if you're going to use the ACLU, a movement, and if you're going to make allegations against somebody, serious ones, you better have the proof. Period.
Yep,
but
have the receipts.
Yeah, there was a bunch of attorneys arguing about that whole Constitution and First Amendment issue that he brought up, and how that actually applied. And a lot of people are saying it did not apply to this case. So I don't know. You have to look into that more, Mike. But anyway, what y'all been waiting for, the verdict, was that Johnny Depp was defamed, and he will get $10 million in compensatory damages, $5 million in punitive damage. She was found. They said yes for all of the questions on the form, and it was definitely proved.
So punitive damages?
Yep, punitive was $5 million. However, I did hear that there's a cap in Virginia of like $350,000. So I don't know if he's going to get that, but he got $10 million for compensatory.
They sue you for punitive damages.
Yeah. Well, punitive means that they showed that she lied and she
with malice. With
malice,
okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
Yes, and also on all accounts they said yes. It was a very intensive jury forum.
So, but didn't she win something too?
Yes, I'm not finished. So then Amber also
You're cutting her off, Mike.
Amber also got $2 million for the statement from Johnny Depp's attorney that Amber's statements were a hoax. Her allegations were a hoax, basically. Whatever he said, he created this PR campaign supposedly, and hashtags on Twitter and all this different stuff, and like millions of hashtags against her that what she said was a hoax. And so that they put that out there. And so they did give her $2 million for that, but no punitive. They gave her compensatory damages and no punitive. And it is confirmed that she will be appealing. I believe that her attorneys did make that statement. And so she will be appealing. So they said this is not over. They're talking about maybe her filing for bankruptcy. She doesn't have nearly as much money as Johnny. What's it going to look like? I don't know. Will he ever get the judgment? He said it wasn't about the money. So
here's what happens though. Sometimes is if you file the appeal, you say, okay, we're going to appeal. We've got these issues, and if you got a decent likelihood of success on appeal, you end up settling between then and now. It's like, all right, well, we'll give you $2 million.
Oh, okay.
And then
we're
just close it out.
We're going to give you $2 million, and we'll drop the appeal.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Which, if he doesn't care about the money,
yeah,
just wants it to be over. Yeah.
But
I was thinking.
hold on. I wonder how his attorneys have agreed to be paid though, because it's a contingency fee, and he's like, I don't care about the money. It's like, well, dude, I don't get paid unless we get the money.
Right.
If he's paying them hourly, then
Yeah. Right. Well, I would imagine he's in a position where he could take care of them. I would think. But
Yeah.
How much do you think? Did they ever mention how much he made off of at least even like just the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise?
Well, I think that last movie he was supposed to do, wasn't he supposed to be getting like 20 million or something? Do you know?
Yeah,
Liberty?
20 million is the amount that comes to mind. However, there's questions about whether he was going to get it because some people were saying that he was showing up late and things like that, and he definitely was doing drinking and things like that. So but that really wasn't what the trial was about. It was about, was he defamed basically, and that's just an element of it. That's hard to prove exactly, why they weren't having it, but I guess they won their case. They were saying that a big part of it was because of what she said. And I want to respond to Mindy, I think her name is. She said they're both nuts. Johnny's just more likable, and there's something to that. Like I said, when I spoke about this in the beginning, in Hollywood, not a lot of people can handle Johnny Depp's life and handle Hollywood. Pastor used to call it Horrorwood because you're around drugs and you're around alcohol, and you're with these people who want fame, potentially Amber just said fame and things like that.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people can handle it, and it's a slippery road. He had a rough childhood, and it's just a disaster if you're not healed up from that. A recipe for in your life. You
see it a lot.
I looked
on what's that, Liberty?
No, I was gonna say I think we should all just watch what you're saying, because it's easy to get sucked into it and just go after both of them. At the end of the day, they are both human beings, but it's not fair to be falsely accused. And with Johnny, it's not fair. And like I said, we all know men who could be falsely accused. So keep your eyes out, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
I think this is some very fascinating current news, and we appreciate all the work you put into this breakdown, Liberty.
Yeah, thanks, Liberty.
But sometimes when I hear this breaking news, it makes me yearn for, I don't know, some 2-week-old news.
There's nothing like 2-week-old news, man.
We got to kick it off, Russ. By the way, John is his stage name, John. His real name is John, Jon.
Well, I'll take responsibility
but
for that.
His radio name is John.
Right, that's right. Trying to keep it on the down low here on the 2-week-old news.
Are you with us, John?
I am.
So what do we got on tap for the 2-week-old news?
Oh, here we go. Johnny Depp to take the stand next week in Amber Heard style.
Perfect timing.
That's great.
That's perfect.
I can't wait for that one.
We should have Liberty give us an update in a couple weeks on that.
That is the best kind of 2-week-old news.
That's good.
All right, what else we got?
Taylor Swift gets an honorary doctorate degree from NYU.
Oh, is that 2-week-old news or regular news? Or news to me, right? That's what we're going to call it from now on?
Yeah. They just give everybody doctorates now, don't they? Don't they?
How about you,
1-week-old news.
Yeah.
That's one. You heard about that 1 week ago?
Yeah.
What about you, Philly Chris? Is that 2-week-old news or news to me?
That's brand new news for me. Yeah, brand new.
News to me? How about you, Russ? Is that 2-week-old news or news to me?
I don't really keep up with Taylor Swift, so it's news to me.
Yeah.
She could be a Kentucky Colonel for all I know.
I thought she was your favorite singer.
No.
Yeah, we're going to go back to I can't even name one of her songs, unfortunately. But I'd love to make a joke about us walking into Russ's garage and have him jamming out. I want to say "Since You've Been Gone." Is that a Taylor Swift song?
I
don't know.
think so.
Liberty.
I don't think so.
If I did know, I wouldn't admit it though.
I'm gonna Google
And
it.
Oh.
that's Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson.
I knew it
Yeah.
wasn't.
So they're different. They're not the same person.
Isn't she? She's from like Reading or something though. Isn't she from Reading, Pennsylvania? I think Taylor
Who's that,
Swift.
Oh
Kelly
yeah,
Clarkson?
West Reading.
Taylor Swift, I think.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, West
Yeah.
Reading.
Maybe. I know Pink is from Allentown.
No, I thought Pink was from Doylestown.
Doylestown, maybe. I
Doylestown,
thought Allentown.
Taylor Swift. Let's see. Let's get to Wikipedia. Here we go.
Yeah, because I was at her house one
West
time.
Reading. You
Yeah, I was at
are
her house
correct,
one time, a long
John.
time ago. Long time ago.
December 13th, 1989, date of birth
Mhm.
in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Interesting.
Yeah, she's a local.
So she's a country singer?
I guess she's considered
She used
country,
to be
but
a
some of
country
her.
She
singer,
used
but
to
then
be
she moved
country.
on to
She
pop.
switched to pop.
Yeah.
Russ, I thought you said you don't know about her.
I know all about her. He's got her autographs and everything.
Good God.
Since you've been
He went
gone.
to Dark Side.
She sings. I do know she sings all about her ex-boyfriends.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she apparently makes them run for the hills over and over again.
Are you
Well,
one of her
somebody,
ex-boyfriends, Russ?
somebody tell me about one of her hits or something like that.
Let's see.
They all
look
sound-
them up.
they all
We Are
sound
Never Getting
terrible.
Back together.
Hmm.
We will never get back together. I can't say I'm familiar with that one.
Consider yourself
I don't know
lucky.
if that's the actual song name, but
It's
in the lyric.
Baby, just say yes.
I've
Sing it,
never
Liberty.
heard that song.
Sing it.
A love story, Shake It Off. I liked her when she did country, personally.
Yeah, she
Went to
did
the dark
kind of
side.
cross
Yeah, Love
over to the
Story,
other
I
side.
heard
yeah.
that one.
Does she do that cheating song, the country cheating song?
That's Carrie Underwood.
Probably.
That's Carrie Underwood.
They're
Okay.
exactly the
Mike-
same, but very different.
Are they?
No, I don't know. They're kind of similar.
Okay, I just found Taylor Swift's top 20 biggest singles.
Oh,
Let's see. They want me to agree to a bunch of. We're gonna look at you
Oh.
for the rest of your life. Is you cool
yeah,
with
don't
that?
do that.
Yeah.
Don't do
No
that.
thanks.
We're gonna just follow you around the internet if you don't mind. Just click here to
Eh.
agree.
Hmm, right.
Okay. Look what you made me do.
Hmm.
Can't
Yes.
say I know that one.
Wasn't her fault.
Bad Blood featuring Kendrick Lamar.
I think I know that. I think I've heard that.
Wildest Dreams.
Hmm.
Delicate.
Yes, I like that.
Me. Begin
I
Again.
don't know.
The Man. Red. I Don't Want to Live Forever with Zayn. Mine. Teardrops
doing
on My Guitar.
That
She's a
sounds like
song
something-
called Tim McGraw.
Hmm.
Apparently.
Uh-oh.
You Need to Calm Down.
No,
That's
you
like
need to
that.
calm down.
Yeah, calm down.
Hey,
Everybody just take it down a
Kyle.
notch. Yeah.
We Are Never Getting Back Together.
You need to
Shout out
calm
to
down.
Calm
Lover.
down.
Wow, Russ was really right. A lot about exes. huh?
Betty. Safe and Sound.
I wonder what all her ex-boyfriends say about her when they hear the songs about them.
Hmm. Probably
They're
say
probably
pay me.
like, "Wow, I'm glad I got rid of her."
I've
Yeah, she
literally
does
never
seem
heard any of
toxic.
these songs, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Mike's
All
gonna binge
Well,
listen.
thank you for the update about her honorary degree.
Mike, can it be considered defaming someone if you write a song about them and with false allegations?
I don't know. Are you gonna?
Question
How are you
is-
gonna prove that it's about them though? Unless you're like saying their name.
Well, I guess. But the thing with Johnny Depp's the thing was that his name was not in the article. That's a twist, guys.
Hmm.
But it was like the totality of circumstances, as Mike says. It was like
Yeah, but that was
the
an
court
article. That would seem. It
TRO.
would seem that an article is something that's more serious than. I
that's a
imagine
diff-
she said, "Oh, that
bit
article is just for entertainment." You know, I had poetic license there when I said that I was
Right.
in an abusive relationship and he beat me and sexually assaulted me.
Just making stuff up.
It was a show, part of the show. That's all.
Yeah.
Come on,
Come on, man.
come on, man.
okay.
Come on, man.
Not-
All right, continue with the 2-week-old news.
All right, we got Finland and Sweden formally applied to join NATO because of the Ukraine situation.
Is
Hmm.
that 2-week-old news or news to you, Philly Chris?
Say it again, John. I missed that one.
Finland and Sweden formally applied to join NATO due to the conflict in Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
2-week-old
That's
news or news to you?
News to me.
News to you. What about you, Liberty?
2-week-old news.
You knew about this. Wow.
Oh, look at this.
Liberty's our new foreign policy expert.
Yeah, right.
There you
What?
go.
I knew
How about you,
this.
Russ? 2-week-old news or news to you?
It's 2-week-old news.
Oh, you knew
Oh,
about this.
Look at you,
So-
Russ.
Yeah.
All right, go Russ.
So with this taking place, what is the significance about countries like, what did you say, is Finland and Poland?
Sweden?
Finland and Sweden.
Finland and Sweden, so Scandinavian countries, right?
Mhm.
Finland and Sweden.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I am no foreign policy expert by any stretch of the imagination, but would this be something that's significant in terms of the world stage, Philly Chris?
Are they supposed to be neutral?
They have been more neutral in the past, I think. I'll have to look into that a little bit more, I
Well,
guess, before I comment in too much
that's what
detail. But I wonder if it ties into what Biden's doing with this whole, handing over the autonomy of the health, of the U.S. During a pandemic or a future pandemic or a health crisis. So I wonder if it has anything to do with that. I'd have to look into it, though. You guys
I
have heard
think what
about that?
Chris said was exactly it. Was that
Hmm.
or no, John said it. They are usually neutral. So the fact that they're not neutral,
Mhm.
they're taking a stand means
Yeah.
something.
We can't
Yeah.
sit on the sidelines for this one.
Right.
I have
Interesting.
no
All right, John, what
feelings
else?
strongly one way or the other.
Yep.
What else we got, John?
All right, we got Saudi Aramco profits jump more than 80% thanks to soaring gas prices.
Oh, wow. You think? Interesting.
Ah, you
So
know,
if
Does
the
that
profits are
still
going
apply
up that
now?
is that 2-week-old news or news to you, Philly Chris?
I heard something about that. I didn't realize it was 80%, but I knew they were jumping significantly. Yeah. Mm.
My buddies who were in oil and gas said, "Hey, I'd buy some Oxy stock if I were you." Well, this is a few months ago.
Right. Yeah. Well,
How
they're onto
about you,
something.
Liberty? 2-week-old news or news to you? You following Amco and their profits?
News to me.
How about you, Russ? 2-week-old news or news to you?
All I know is the gas prices keep going up, so it's
News
it's
to you, but not
2 week-
surprising.
it's
right? I think I fall
2-week-old
into that
news.
category.
It's current news, and it'll probably be true 2 weeks from now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
I-
Philly
Well, I
Chris.
paid
So-
$4.99 today out in the western suburbs, which I thought was pretty high for out there because
Wow.
it's usually less than in the city. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guys, I have a
that's a
tip for you
toasty
about
price.
gas.
Mm.
Guys, I have a tip about gas.
Go ahead, Liberty.
So if
Is this where you go
last
up to
week-
somebody else's car and you open the thing and put the
No.
hose in there?
No, you feel a lot better. So if last week you paid $80 for gas, which is a
Right.
lot,
Mhm.
and this week, which happened to me, I kept looking at it and it kept going past what it was last week.
Mhm.
I said, "Oh no, this isn't happening." So I just went over there and stopped it. I said, "No, it's going to be the same as last week." I think I got less gas, but it made me feel better.
It's like the companies that change the packaging size instead of the price. Like I remember years ago, certain ice cream manufacturers, if you look on the bottom, like the bottom is way higher than it used to be. The carton's the same size, but the bottom's been pushed up. Yeah. There you go. That's
That's a
good, though.
dirty trick.
Right? A lot of dirty tricks going on.
Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
Any other news?
Yeah, and then with that, the FDA and Abbott reached an agreement to reopen baby formula plant.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, the whole baby formula thing. What the
Apparently,
quite-
they closed one of those plants down.
Yeah, there was something going on with that. Yeah, quite the debacle there. Not good. Not good. People need their baby formula.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe more people will breastfeed too, because that's good anyway. That's better for the baby anyway, supposedly.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, Chris, you're going to get attacked for that.
well, it's supposed to be healthier, and there's other psychological
No.
benefits, I believe. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I read some things
But you're
about
not
it.
allowed to say that in the
I'm
state of
sorry,
Chris.
am I breaking the rules?
Not allowed.
I'm
Oh,
not
there's
a
so many
doctor, but I
rules now.
Googled
There's
it
so
a
many
lot.
rules now. So many rules. I like to break the rules and keep breaking the rules.
I was gonna say the rule breaker.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. More
Roll
fun that
breaker
way.
Is Mike still there?
Okay.
Mike was done a couple minutes ago. I think he's gone. He's like, I've had enough.
Where is he anyway?
Ran out of gas.
He was getting some gas. He was getting some of that cheap gas. He had to run out real quick. Better go fill
All
up
right.
before it goes
What
up
else
during
we
the
got?
show. Yeah.
All right. We have Russia has lost a third of its invasion force, UK intelligence says.
1/3, huh?
I
pretty
think
bad.
that is 2-week-old news to me. Is that 2-week-old news or news to you, Chris?
That's news to me. I haven't really watched the news much the past couple weeks, so.
So
Yeah.
literally everything's news.
Yeah, literally everything. I was
could say
away. I was up in an area where I had like pretty much no internet access, but I was happy.
I could
about
say that they found UFOs in Ardmore. And,
No, I know about that.
That's
Although
great.
that has been back in the news. Yeah, you got to look into that a little, John. That's been back in the news. They had.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's
hearings
interesting.
recently,
One of the Republican congressmen, I think it was Jim Jordan, was saying that, come on, people, this is a distraction. We're talking about UFOs and
Mhm.
we got this, and this going on. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Well, it's a lot. I
Maybe
think it's going to become
I
more
guess it's
news. Yeah.
possible. It's entirely possible that there's some legitimacy there. And at the same time, the timing
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
specific to being a distraction.
It could be. I think we're going to hear quite a bit more about it in the coming months and years. I don't think it's part of the reason I brought it up a long time ago is I think it's going to become a bigger story at some point, a much, much larger one, but we'll see where it goes,
Absolutely.
Stephen Greer did a big press conference the other day. I'm still finishing watching it, but he made some interesting statements. He actually even talked about the Second Amendment in there, which is something he's never talked about. I don't know if you remember Dr. Stephen Greer, who did those documentaries. So,
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
Greer, and who's the other guy?
there's a few
The
other
guy
ones.
with the lips who the people said that he never worked there, and they were
Oh,
like,
you-
what
Bob
about
Lazar?
This, Bob Lazar.
Yeah,
And he's like, "What
There's
about
an
this
interesting
manual where it
video-
literally has his name in it."
right. And also, he built his own particle accelerator and built a Corvette that it could run on, I believe, hydrogen and stuff. And that's all documented online,
Oh.
too.
How do you get hydrogen in there?
Well, he actually built a particle accelerator. The actual, I'd have to look it up, the scientific element that he made in the particle accelerator, but you can't buy it. You can't, but you can possess it. It's like one of those deals because it's so hard to manufacture. You literally need a particle accelerator, which is what that big CERN machine is over in Europe. That's the largest man-made, most advanced machine ever built. And he made his own and was able to manufacture the component that's used in that Corvette in the tanks. He shows it all, and he gets like 400 miles, on a few dollars worth of the material that's in there. But
Government manipulating the weather too.
Well, there goes the
there's
price of
people who talk
hydrogen.
about that. The HARP antenna there, the HARP antenna.
I
I
want
don't
one
like
of
them
them.
putting
Corvettes.
chemicals in the water.
Right. Yeah, the jets flying around. There's a lot of stuff going on. Who knows? Some of it's conspiracy theories. Some of it's probably real conspiracies, I guess. But will we ever know?
Everything's coming out.
Will the
What
masses
else
ever
we got,
know?
John?
Some people know the truth. More of those people need to come out from behind the curtain.
The truth is out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
The truth shall set you free.
That's right.
What else we got? Any more news?
I think that's it for right now.
All right, excellent. As usual, you did not disappoint.
Mhm.
John with the 2-week-old news.
Old news.
I'm gonna hit that video again, Russ.
Oh, all right.
Do it again.
You got to give him an intro and an outro.
There you go.
It's a good tune. I like it. I picture John walking up wearing like one of those time period outfits that you'd see in the movie Anchorman.
Yeah.
We should film them and then like put it in there, so everybody can see.
That
We'll
would
have
be
to
great.
film that, John. Yeah.
We
You
do.
got to go to like the Salvation Army and get him like a really old looking
Oh
suit.
yeah. totally have to do
old-fashioned.
that.
That would be great. Where is the closest? We could go to like the Goodwill over in Concordville, right? Is that where that is? Chadsford, maybe.
There's one over there, I
One's
think.
right
Yeah,
next
there's a
to
bunch
Target
of them.
Master,
Yeah.
right
Yeah, we
on
should do that
202.
one day. No, that would be fun. We should get a few outfits. Go out and do some video.
Yep.
We should make like a 70s like action, movie, some kind of thing,
I want the big sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
There you go.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Like in Boogie Nights, like when Dirk Diggler and what's his name were doing their
Not
thing.
seen that movie, unfortunately.
Mm.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order, people?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for
read-
hanging with me last
Oh,
week.
read some of the comments before we leave.
What do we got?
Sure.
Should I bring it up on screen then?
Mike should do a mailbag.
A mailbag?
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
You have to write in to John?
you can write into John.
Mm.
He'll get it 2 weeks from now because the mail system is so
Exactly.
slow.
Right.
Take it away. Read from we talked about pink, so just read from Educate Citizen and Rita saying pink is good.
All right. Let me find that. Okay, so yeah, pink is good.
Rita said.
What is it? Mandy Pfizer or something? Exactly. Who shouldn't be making decisions for U.S. Rita Sullivan. Yesterday, the gas was $4.79 in Reading. Rusty Shackelford. I'm not a doctor, but I Googled a lot of stuff. Okay. All right. And then any thoughts on the January 6th protest fiasco? Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Rita says, you're a rebel, Philly Chris. Thanks, Rita. I try. And then Mike, why is your mic as big as your head?
You said that?
I'm not sure how to say that name. Mindy Fisler?
Fizzler?
Maybe Fisler? I'm not
Fizzler?
sure.
It lacks vowels. It's very difficult.
It might be an optical illusion, right? Kind of
Could
like
be.
when you
It's
hold
probably
a
an
fish in
optical
front of
illusion,
you.
yeah.
You hold a fish out here, right? Why are your fists bigger than your face, Mike G?
Right, right.
Look how big his hands are.
He's
It's
got
ridiculous.
huge hands.
Hey
huge hands.
guys, which is closer, the moon or Florida? It's a trick question. The moon's closer. How do you know? Can you see Florida?
So a listener
can't.
just sent me a private.
That's a good point.
A
You
listener
can't
sent
see
me.
me. With my hand.
I wanted
Hands-
to.
Oh, my hand's bigger than my entire body now. Look.
Oh no!
Wait, guys, before
Look how big my
serious-
thumb is.
It's getting bigger. What are you doing?
The huge thumb.
Oh
We're on
god, it's
some
getting
steroids.
bigger.
Mike,
Thumb
this
steroids.
may be corny. This may be corny, but it's kind of like a life lesson. If you guys
Oh jeez.
put take a quarter, Mike, and put it up to the screen, and basically it's a comparison. So if you show the light that's in the back of the room, the light will look really small. Yeah, put that up to the screen.
Bottle cap.
Hmm.
Yeah, so and picture that as your problem. So the more you focus on your problem, the bigger it gets. But the more you focus on God, if there was a light in the background, we could do a visual. The more you focus, I got this from online, but the more you focus on God, you can actually see in reality, you go closer to the light, it's way bigger than your problem. So stop focusing on your
I
problem.
have the world's largest bottle cap. It's bigger than my head.
You should wear it like a hat,
I gotta put
Mike.
it back on my wall. I got this huge water bottle. I gotta take this cap and.
I'm crushing
Oh
your
no!
head.
Don't crush my head.
I'm
He's
crushing your
my
head.
Ah,
I'm
my
crushing it.
head.
Ow.
I don't know what
No,
happened,
don't
but one of our
use the
listeners just sent me a
force.
message saying that Biden did something about he gave a speech tonight about assault weapons and magazine ban or something. Have you heard anything about this, Mike? Or guess we should
No.
save it for next week. But
We should probably do like some kind of a special thing over the weekend because
Hmm.
I have been sitting here thinking about all the different thoughts I have.
yeah,
I've been thinking about thoughts I have.
Wow,
It's good
10
to
out
think
of
about
10,
your
Mike.
thoughts.
All the
Yeah.
different
That was
responses
a lot
I
of
have.
failure.
yeah.
All different responses that I have to some of the stupid asinine things people have been saying after the Texas shooting.
Sure.
It seems that there's no shortage of opinions, and people are incredibly confident about what they're saying,
Right. Right.
even though they have no idea what they're talking about. And this is
Right.
not just for anti-gun people, pro-gun people as well.
Yeah.
For example, you got people saying, well, if it wasn't for the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act, this would never happen. Well, you do know that the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act has an exception for people who have a license to carry in that state, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. You mentioned that before.
Virtually
Yeah.
doesn't fly, so
Mm-hmm.
try again.
Yeah. Well, they don't know the facts, and there's a lot of facts to know. I guess that's part of the
We
challenge.
don't talk
but,
out of our armpits like these other folks, right?
Right.
How about that?
Exactly. Not on this show. Not on this show, anyway.
Not on the show.
Yeah.
Aren't talking on this show.
Right. That's right.
I'll talk out of my elbows.
Not up in here.
That's my armpit
We
talking
good to
voice.
go? All right, we good to go?
We're good to go.
All
Peace
right.
and love, everybody.
For those of us just no, that's not it.
Wrong one, Mike. Wrong one.
You were thinking about your thoughts, weren't you?
He got
What a
lost.
long couple of days, bro.
No, I got it, dude. I don't know how you do it. If people had any idea how many hours you put in a week, they don't.
That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for We the People, the Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. We miss you, Ellie.